What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out, thanks, and appreciation to Debril Harris Eads, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Yuya Namento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dale West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Not like I care for Kobe Bryant, but it's just like, oh my God, so much crap. The gematria, his daughter's birthday's on the 6th, and all types of crazy shit.
Well, I'll tell you what is weird about that. It is weird that they kind of explained it on one of the shows, whether it was Simpsons or South Park, that it would be a helicopter crash. I mean, that's like a seed if I ever heard one, right? But other than that, I'm not familiar with any of the stuff that you said. But...
Well, they're all part of the club, so that's number one. He's got to strike against him, right? And then they do that sex thing all the time, right? He got caught in the rape years ago, remember? And then they always do that too. And then they do weird crap, right? Like Bill Cosby. I don't know if you remember, his son got murdered along the freeway there. Different. Michael Jackson, his father. There's always weird crap going on. Always. Now that you look back at it, right? You know, and you start really.
Yeah, the Michael Jackson one is weird too, man. There's so many different sides to the stories and shit, man.
Know why they picked those two things? You've picked on two very specific things: death and sex. Because that's well, no, that's what it is. The death and the sex cell. It's very well documented in terms of marketing and advertising. So you can either appeal to people's sense of self-preservation, which is the death cell, or you can appeal to people's intent to reproduce, the sex cell.
Yo, Nathan, can let me run this by you right quick. What you think about the whole Balenciaga ad campaign thing?
Never heard of it. I don't know what that is. You'll have to tell me what that is.
Okay, so anyways, so Balenciaga is a high-end fashion brand. They had children posing with teddy bears. These teddy bears had on BDSM sexual gear on them, like latex, ball gags in their mouth and stuff like that. And in the pictures, there was a document of some child pornography, pro-child pornography sex act thing that went through court, but that document was in there, in the pictures. What do you make of that?
I wouldn't buy them. Likewise, I wouldn't buy Celine Dion's death and skulls and horror stuff on her kids' line of clothing either. I mean, do I want them? No. For my children? No, thank you. I'm good.
But people are just saying it's blatant pedophilia. That's the argument.
Perhaps. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think we can get away with it, perhaps.
I hear what you're saying, and it sounds wrong.
Oh, also, Nathan, I wanted to tell you about the titling of your videos, man. You need to put Dr. Becky on them. You need to put Professor Dave on them, and that way, well, you're blacklisted. You're poo-pooed on YouTube. So, do you have a second channel you can upload that's not, algorithmically fucked on there for your videos?
No, I mean, in terms of YouTube, I've got several channels, and they're all separate, technically speaking. But you know,
So they're not blacklisted. The other video,
I
the
didn't
other
say that.
channels aren't blacklisted.
I don't think that's the case. No, I mean they're all in the same boat.
Okay, so what if you were to outsource these videos, like give them to me, and I'll just upload them and put Nathan Oakley, like that? Because I know I'm not blacklisted. So what do you think about that? If other people, disseminating your content.
Do it and see what happens.
What was that?
Do it and see what happens.
All right, I'll try to just grab or edit a video, but yeah, you need to put Dr. Becky on them,
In
debunked
the
or something
titles, fine.
like that.
No worries.
That's
I've
what we
put them
do.
in the thumbnail. I didn't put them in the title. I can remedy that.
Hey guys,
Hey, one dick. Thank you for letting me know. I will
just
do
saying
that.
I've already.
So
Sorry,
I
guys.
just
Just
say
saying
one more thing, one dick.
I've-
Sorry.
Yeah,
Somebody
no
did
worries.
contact me via PayPal, so they dropped me a donation and said, "This is for the video 1764 from memory," and I was like, "All right." So I wrote back, "Thanks for the donation. I don't know what that video is, but I have now gone and looked it up, and it was the one with Dave Weiss, Jaron, Whitsit, and Hibbler. I don't think there was any Tyson in there. I think there was in the live show. So Tyson was on the thumbnail, but based on what I know is in that video, I couldn't tell from what he put in the title. Whereas if it had a snappy title about whatever that group collectively called themselves, then that would presumably mean it was easier to find rather than just scrolling through thumbnails. And if you see Tyson on one of them, you're not going to necessarily know that that's about the Dave Weiss, Jaronism, Hibbler, and Whitsit Gets It debate.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got to name names.
Okay.
That's gonna help like people look back and rewatch your episodes, right?
Sure. The last 10 episodes have been reactionary shows. I'm sure today's will too. I've just seen how can
Oh, I
space
just
and
want to
time
say,
be the same
Nathan. I
thing
think
from 10th
I just
Man.
want to say, Nathan.
Say again?
The best videos to me are your reactions to people. We have to put out Professor Dave's videos. We have to label them properly, and reactions are the best ones, man, because they go to the top of the list as soon as you. The way I search is, of course, you go to upload date, right, and that's where you get the most recent content. Because just a regular search will give you the preferred media, right?
No worries. So in the title, I will put Dr. Becky reaction or Tyson reaction.
Yeah, and obviously someone else has to start uploading because your channel is blacklisted, and it was. I don't know. Maybe it will help with other people start uploading the content too, man.
Mate, help. It depends which way you want to look at it. With your YouTube hat on, my YouTube hat on, it doesn't necessarily make any difference. Because to be honest, like with that comment, right? That was a comment with $30 attached to it. Because he sent it me via PayPal to make sure I knew he was giving me money directly for that specific episode.
Oh, okay.
So from that point,
Do you have a Cash App?
Say again.
Do you have a Cash App for us
Yeah, like
Americans?
PayPal.
Because that's
But
okay.
the
We have
conduit's
this thing
not what I'm
called
talking
Cash App.
about. Just don't get sidetracked. That's not what I'm talking about. The conduit's not important. The important point is that is how I receive the majority of the support that matters. That's what actually sustains me. Because the YouTube algorithm, even if I got it to give me 10x what it's giving me, just wouldn't even compare to what actually sustains the show. There's a reason I shout out Patreons on every single show. And, I should extend that to all the other people. But I thank them personally. That guy on PayPal, I thanked him personally.
Now we know you're grateful for every donation, brother. But I'm just saying, in the U.S., we have a application called Cash App that is a very fast and easy way to send money, to each other. And I was wondering if you would have like an American account of a Cash App that you could receive money on.
I'm all for that. I'll have a look. Thank you for letting me know.
And when are we going to get at these fucking TikTokers?
I've looked at TikTok about half a dozen times now, and every time I come to the same conclusion, which is that it's a flash in the pan. It's not comparable to YouTube.
Flash in the pan? They get 700 viewers, dude. That's not a flash in the pan. This is daily. This is daily.
I disagree, Nathan.
Okay. Right. What about Instagram? What about Bebo? What about MySpace?
That's dead. That's dead.
Hold on. What do you mean dead? What about Instagram?
I mean, you can't get no viewers. That's what I mean.
I'm just listing off all of the flash in the pan man, why aren't you on Instagram? Well, because I just see it as a flash in the pan. But Instagram is the most amazing thing in the world ever. A year later, what happened to Instagram? Well, everyone's on Bebo.
Well, you can just mirror it, Nathan. You can just mirror a stream that way to TikTok because, dude, I shit you not, everyone goes live after your stream ends. All of a sudden, all the fucking flat earthers pop up at 10 o'clock a.m. They pop up, and they have their little bulletin boards, gravity, evolution, stuff like that. You haven't seen Globy McGlow-Face, Planet Peterson, a bunch of them. They all go live and always say in the comments, "So why do you guys
I'll
go
be
live?"
ruthlessly honest with you, right? Given that I literally struggle to find the time to even title my videos, I have to really weigh up and really consider what I spend my time doing. Like, I don't have enough time to do TikTok and add it to my regime. Now, if it was super, super worth it, or I saw it as super beneficial, I would, but I don't. And every time someone brings it up, it's like, I understand your current enthusiasm for TikTok, but every time I look at it, maybe it's me getting older, I don't know. I just look at it as appealing only to the ADHD generation. That's what I see it as.
No, these guys stream for hours on end. They stream for hours on end and get literally
right up my
700
alley.
views.
Again, I'll keep looking at it. I'm not saying no. I'll keep looking at it every time someone suggests it.
The Adderall drip guy for my crowd.
Yeah, Adderall drip. Yeah, you've got it. Breaking up. You're breaking up one deck.
Somebody's cutting out.
You're breaking up one deck.
So Nathan, you don't think TikTok has hurt YouTube in any way?
I know it has. I did a questionnaire for them only yesterday. So they're sending out something. They're assessing the opinion of their creators, including myself, with surveys because they want to know the score. And I could only give them my opinions in the survey that they sent me out. So I know that they're concerned about it because they wouldn't be asking if they weren't. But am I concerned? Not really. Do I see it as a massive benefit that I should be jumping on that gravy train bandwagon? No. And I've assessed it multiple times.
Knowing that you're shadow banned and knowing that TikTok is the new rave and taking viewers away from YouTube, I would be looking at it.
Okay, number one, I'm not shadow banned. That is not the case. Right, you can find me. Right, it's just you find other people first. Well, I knew that. What is it? It's probably 3 years ago now, when YouTube were confronted by Congress saying, "What are you going to do about all these flat earthers?" And their answer was, I can't remember the phrase now. It's such a long time ago, but something like preferred content will be what will be offered.
Media.
Pardon?
Well, maybe TikTok isn't big in Birmingham or something, but it's the biggest fucking thing. It causes traffic accidents over here. It is so huge.
So I'll keep hearing. I keep saying I will keep looking at it.
But every time you don't make a TikTok video, you're not looking at it.
Every time I don't make a TikTok video, that's always.
Exactly.
That was a timely statement.
Yeah, I've never seen your videos on TikTok. I know people have said that before, but I've never seen them on there.
I'm not on there. That's why. I'm sure you would if I was on there.
No, somebody said they had uploaded a few of your clips, but I've never seen them.
That's why I was saying upload whatever you like on YouTube if you think it's because of shadow banning and see how the upload does. And when you come back to me and go, I only got 50 views, I'll be like, yeah, it's because getting views is just all about building up an audience. Now, at the moment, as much as you might want to attribute it to shadow banning, I know that's not the case. So it is just down to how big and well I can maintain and grow an audience. That's down to how much people like the content and share it with others with enthusiasm. So just, yeah, okay, some people might click on it and just click share and click Facebook and click
how about this? I can personally bet you $100 that you go live on Flat Earth on TikTok one time, and I bet you'll have more viewers than we'll get today.
Okay.
With zero audience, zero subscribers, trust me. Just go on there debating Flat Earth. Trust me, you will have up to 700 viewers.
I'd like to say something, Nathan, on that guy we've been talking about, Professor Dave. Now, he did a video explaining to the class how much support tech he has. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. I looked for the video. I wanted to send it to you. And it's out there, but not like you're a one-man operation. He's got, I don't know how many people working for him. And that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration when you're out here all by yourself. You know, we're out here supporting you, but this tech support is big, big help.
Oh, don't. No. Yeah, you couldn't be more wrong. The difference between me and Dave in that regard is zero, actually, because every single person that sits on this panel are the equivalent of Dave's researchers. They're just out in the open. There's no real difference there, though.
But I'm talking commercial, not like how they support you here. See, like what he's talking about on TikTok. He's talking about that's commercial type of help. All this computer stuff that you complain about, like me, I'm not a computer guy, but the computer, my son is. But it's all that what he said, algorithms, all these different things, they're still critical.
Yeah,
and I'm not far.
I kind of see where you're coming from, but I kind of just still disagree. Because if you think about it, right, let's lay out the last couple of 12 months, should I say, right? I've had the typical amount of support that I get financially. I've also had the typical amount of support for free. In other words, because of the subject matter, I get everyone who's on the panel now. Let's just take one example, right? Righteous Force. Very diligent, doing his thing, that absolutely maintains the show. Without his input and effort and work, there wouldn't be an open gateway. The show wouldn't be what it is. Now, at the moment, that's not being exploited, the open gateway. We're having a conversation with you, right, Steve? So, fine. But that gateway's still open and will remain so. But does that mean that Righteous gets a load of praise? No, he gets virtually none, doesn't he? But he's absolutely integral. And he's doing it because he recognises a good cause. I've got no money to pay him.
Righteous.
I'm nearly done. I've got no money to pay him. But he's not asking to be paid. Now, with Dave, it's very different. He doesn't have a worthy cause that people want to support him just because they think it's a good cause. So he's going to have to find support through financial means. Now, he's going to get them because he's got far more income from his means of putting it out there. And because it's him being the producer of that material, he doesn't have to credit anybody. He might occasionally mention them, but he doesn't have to credit them. He's paying them. So, same goes for anybody. Pay for something, you don't necessarily have to credit the person. You paid them. You've got their service. If they fulfilled whatever it is you asked them to do, no love loss, right? So in that regard, he just hasn't got the benefit, the plus that I have into going, look at all my researchers, they're sat right there. Look at all the people who support me in the background. They're sat right there. You can talk to them right now, right? Dave can't do any of that because he hasn't got a worthy cause. Therefore, he hasn't got the biggest plus there is for me as a YouTuber, which is the level of support, direct support, open support, public support that I get. Does he get any of that? No, he probably has to pay for it all. But we both get the same support. I wouldn't be able to do any of this. I wouldn't be able to debate fundies and call them idiots and talk about teabagging them if it wasn't for Tenth and Refracted and QE and Righteous and Neil and all the rest of them. I can't do any of that stuff without the people around me supporting me. Now, the fact that I'm now disagreeing with you in essence in support of Professor Dave, you might be thinking this is leaving a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. I'm saying the guy's, not comparable because he's got all this support that he gets presumably paid for and has around him, at a financial cost, massively offset by the amount of income. But that doesn't make us any different, is my attitude. And you're trying to say, no, he's got all this stuff supporting him behind the scenes. Well, other than the behind the scenes bit, I'm saying that's no different to us. It's just a lot nicer for us, I think. Go on.
Well, I never said it was your attitude. I just said, all thing I even mentioned, Nathan, is just people supporting you on the computer type of deal. I don't really care. I don't know anything about them. I just know that bots and all this crap play into it, and they whatever. Yeah, I don't have any concern about how you run the program myself personally.
As you shouldn't. You shouldn't need to. Me talking about it on the show is a big no-no. But there we go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you run the show. I don't I don't know anything. To be
Again,
quite honest.
Consider this, right? From Dave, or Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel's perspective, do you think he's ever been in a situation where someone's come and watched his video and gone, man, I am so passionate about what this guy's got to say, I'm going to drop $4,000 on a computer for him? Or, oh, I like this stuff that this guy's saying so much that I'm going to go and give him 50 quid on his GoFundMe towards his computer? Do you think that ever is going to happen?
Absolutely correct about that.
Nobody's
You're
ever going to
absolutely
do
right
that.
about that.
And for me, that is so fulfilling, so rewarding. It makes me tingle. I'm not even joking. The fact that that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we agree with you. I mean, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Only thing we ever say is just to, hopefully, just to, meant for a compliment or help. You got a big job.
Yeah, I do. I love my job. I completely agree. If you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life. You say that with all sincerity, and then 10 minutes ago I was saying I haven't got any time to title my videos, because that's the reality of it. But that does, I've got a very fulfilled life. If I got run over by a bus tomorrow, I'd feel like I'd had a very fulfilled life. Literally. And that's all you can ask out of life. If you're constantly striving to achieve something you're not getting towards, then you're going to go, well, I couldn't get hit by a bus tomorrow because I haven't done that thing that I need to do next week. Now, I don't feel that way. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that I want to get hit by a bus, but I'm saying that...
Well, at least you'll die a true flat earther.
Yeah, that's where I was going. You're way ahead of me. Exactly. The level of passion via the support that I receive demonstrates admirably to anybody who's an onlooker the level of passion in this, if I'm not going to say even we've discussed, the community that we actually have. That community, the real actual people in the community who care, their passion is unparalleled. And you can't create that in a heliocentrist. The anti-flat earthers' passion isn't passion, it's disdain for us. It's not passion. Whereas the people who support flat earth debate specifically in this instance, their passion is absolutely unbridled. And it shows. And that, I would imagine, if you were an onlooker as a YouTuber, would be something to be envious of. So what can you do? Well, you can laugh at the fact that the support in terms of the numbers that go alongside the videos are very low, especially at the moment. Ah, look, it's a dying subject. No, it isn't. Because the people who are around it are burning like bright stars. They're not getting dissuaded. Quite the contrary. Their enthusiasm levels increasing. They're trying to be proactive in terms of how they disseminate the information, and they relay that to me. You're one of them. So yeah, it's not just financial. In terms of the level of passion that people show towards this subject, that's just unparalleled. I can't think of anything else that demonstrates the same type of passion. There's false passion that's instilled in people through cults, but there's no organic, natural passion in a topic that I can name that parallels or even comes close to flat Earth. There just isn't any. Now, that kind of has a bit of a double-edged sword to it when people exploit it, which we are covering at the moment as well, because you can see that as something to exploit. And people will exploit things where there is exploitation to be had. It's just the way of life, unfortunately. But nevertheless, the fact that it's there to be exploited means that there's a high degree of passion, as I'm, exclaiming, because that's great. And we all experience it. We all love it. And that is why, to get to the final point of all this, the people who are on the panel open in terms of my research team, if you want to look at them by comparison to Dave, that's why they're here. Without a penny piece being passed to them. I keep all of it.
What I don't like about it, though, is that you got a big-ass black cloud around your channel, though. You're algorithmically fucked.
I can't do anything about that. But it doesn't change the fact that you can still find me. People do still find me. And when they do, their passion is unbridled and their support is enough to keep me going, just about.
There's a reason for that.
What is it, 10?
Well, you've been true to the topic and subject matter since I've known you. Everyone else seems to divert to other things. And in a sense, when I use the word, purist, you're the closest to that on the subject matter. And then you got the high standards of not allowing fallacious reasoning to take up 40 minutes before we get to a point. So you say, hang on, that's a fallacious argument. Either reword it or we stop here. So you're doing it in the right way. You've constantly been doing it in the right way. And the other flat earth channels that we maybe used to frequent, at least in my case, they have changed subject matters, gone places. They've even accepted fallacious reasoning. So they're all dropping away from the purest flat earther who's looking for the real content. Plus, the reason it's such a great topic is because, in my opinion, it shows the deception that the devil has brought upon the world. And it's the one deception that stands out of them all. Because if you could change the creation story, then you could say that
Any proof of this devil 10th? Any proof of this devil 10th?
Hold on, let him finish.
Why are you so eager to interrupt while I'm talking?
He's keen.
No. Here, the proof of the devil is him interrupting. That's the proof of the devil right there, trying to stop what I'm saying.
Not really.
Because he doesn't like Christianity. He doesn't like where I'm coming from, where I have to put up with narcissists and atheists and agnostics and non-believers all day, and I give them all the room they want. They can live the way they want. Why can't I live the way I want? Any proof of that? Any proof of that? My goodness, go live your life. Go do what you want. Let me do what I want.
I want to hear. Please finish.
Well, I'm gonna. So the whole point is, when you realize that the world system has changed the creation story, they can say you came out of a big bang, life doesn't matter. And so then these kids with the minds that can be changed by the education system and all the systems that are in place, that deceives them as to who they are, what they are, where they came from. Is there a God? Should they look up and pray? Should they ask? I mean, I dare anyone to do what I did. I looked up for 6 months as a 14-year-old, and I said, God, if you're there, I want to know you. For 6 straight months, I prayed that prayer to the point of tears because I really wanted to know my Creator, and he answered me. You know what? I found out later, because I never owned the Bible before, that if you seek, you will find. If you knock, it will be open. If you ask, it will be given. Why don't you go do that with all your heart, and let's see what God does. If he doesn't answer you, keep whatever you got. He answered me.
Hey, 10th man, I wish I would have did that at 14. It would have saved me so much grief and regrets that I have in my life. Wow.
The reason that there is less people in the flat earth community on YouTube is twofold. One is because they all got their channels taken down because they started making COVID videos 2 years ago. And two is because a lot of people just accepted it, that okay, it's flat. They just go, they didn't feel the need to argue any further. That's what. That's what it is. And then I understand you're a Christian and everything else, and you are bringing the devil into it, but man will do that just as handy as anyone else.
Yeah, but Brian,
you don't need the devil for bad things.
No, listen, Brian, I'm agreeing with you. You're 100% right. But Brian, there's a deception over the whole world, and the Prince of Darkness, who is given the rights to this earth, is behind the whole thing. what a day. What a lovely
Welcome
day.
to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Arwin, Refracted Curvature, Righteous Force, Brian's Logic, 10th Man Rising, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello,
Good
hello.
morning.
Good afternoon.
morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Put it on.
Wow, can't even get a hello in there. Good start.
Good start, yeah, great. No objections by me. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. So nice. to
I
see
wish
you.
it was over here. I got nothing but rain, and I'm trying to move
Oh, dear.
today. Where's the sun?
Oh shit.
Gosh.
We have the
That
technology.
sucks.
Yeah, you're
We
gonna
have
need
the
a.
technology. Let's blow up the sun.
Hold on, I hear a
Yeah.
claim. What was that? We have the technology for what?
Let's blow up the sun.
We have the technology to blow up the sun. What's the sun?
It doesn't matter. Let's blow it up.
Ow.
We'll
You're not
find out
talking
when we
about
blow it
red
up.
matter, are you?
Red
Like
matter?
from-
Oh, there's a claim. What the hell are you think the sun's red matter? What the hell's that?
No. I'm referencing some stupid sci-fi movie, like the remake of Star Trek, where Spock is going around the old Spock with some red matter. And if you drop a droplet of that into something, it'll turn into a black hole or something. So
If
Sorry.
the moon is made out of cheese, what's the sun made out of?
What's a black hole?
Why would I accept that the moon
Orange
is made out of
juice?
cheese? And why would I have any idea what the sun is?
orange
It's dark
juice.
cheddar cheese.
This is getting crazy. Listen.
no.
The question was any distance to the sun. Well, it is claimed if you have an Earth with a radius, you can figure that out.
Yeah, I got a lecture off my 6-year-old
Well-
this morning. Exactly that. So she's like, we can move around the sun, Daddy. She knows what I'd do. So I was like, oh yeah, what makes you think that? She's like, because it's really, really, really big. I was like, how big? She's like, bigger than Earth as a sphere. I was like, how do you know that? She's like, just do, I just know. I was like, well, logically, what makes you think that it's bigger than us? And all she could do is repeat back the rhetoric. So I'm like, oh, this isn't a good opportunity to tell her what she's being taught or how she's being taught in regards to the trivium. So I did. And I was like, does this logically follow, or are you just talking rhetoric that you're parroting back to me? You know, and sorry, close your ears, 10th Man. I compared it to angels, which she also likes the idea of, and unicorns. She's got all sorts of ideas about what the sky is. Yesterday, she had some of the ideas about there being unicorns in the sky, was a little bit shattered with some biblical text, which I got her to listen to because she's interested in the sky unicorns. Why wouldn't she be? She's 6. But when she starts parroting off rhetoric to me that relies on an R value and an assumption of sphericity, an assumption of orbital motions, and assumptions of Venus having the same size R value as Earth, and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motions, with the begging the question orbital motions already in place, it goes on and on and on, this crap. What are we looking at? That light that moves through the sky? It moves through the sky. What the hell have we got to infer that we're moving around it beyond this begging the question fallacy of orbital motion? Well, nothing is the honest answer. Literally nothing. There's a light in the sky that comes and goes, seems to make the ground heat up and get light. But then it goes at the end of the day. That's why we call it day. But what's that? We move around it. We're spinning about an axis. Any evidence of an axis?
Well,
Well,
the whole
Axis of
thing with
what?
the sun.
Go on, John.
the whole thing with the sun is like the object permanency thing, or kind of get used to handling things and associating tangibility with those things. I think that's one of the reasons that heliocentrism caught on the way it did, because it allowed to have that kind of object permanency with the sun and think of it as
something you can blow up.
Object in space.
Yeah, that's why I took objection to when you said blow it up. I'm like, well, what is it? If I shine a light of a torch onto a wall and you go, I'm going to blow it up. Like, what are you talking about? What, the wall that it's on? I don't know what the sun is, therefore how do you know it's physical to know that you can blow it up? Well, so long as that's, got a good laugh, but so long as that's assumption that's in place, you can say, I don't care what it is, I'm going to blow it up. Because in that statement, it's physical and can be blown up. It's like, what the hell? I don't know what it is. Shout out to James May for the super chat. Just one sec. Says, good day, all, with a thumbs up. Thank you very much for the super chat. Go ahead. Was that Brian?
Yeah. Everything can be blown up.
Okay.
But
thanks for input.
That idea
with enough effort.
It's the Irish coming out in him. We'll have no trouble here.
Even like when you describe the sun, I mean, if you say the sun's a physical light, it's the language there is pretty much, it's right there in the language. It's a physical light. So how can you then claim it's not physical or whatever?
Yeah,
I mean, what does it matter
that's
how
the
far
thing.
it is anyway?
John went first. Go ahead.
What is it?
It is physical. Light's physical.
Well, it is the trick of the language.
Yes, it is. Go ahead, John.
It's a trick of language. The way it's defined in our language is one of the reasons that heliocentrism has been so successful, is instead of it just being a light in the sky, we don't know what it is. Now it's a physical light in the sky that is causing
Sounds like a
things.
false dichotomy.
No. He hasn't made his point yet. Go ahead, John.
Well, when you're young, the idea of I was hinting at it with object permanency, right? So it doesn't take much for someone's mind to accept the sun as being something that they could touch if they were able to get up there to it. It's almost built into us to do this equivocation between the things that we can touch that are tangible and the sky.
Exactly. Can you drop and rejoin? You're breaking up a little bit. But exactly. So is light physical? Yeah, we experience light. It's got energy. You can measure it. It's got lots of physical attributes to it. The light that we experience. Well, can you then infer that there's something physical and tangible in the sun? Yes, you can, and yes, they do. But does that mean that something intangible has physicality? It's intangible. You can't know. So you can infer away, but it doesn't mean it's proven. That's why when we're talking about it as a coal-burning plant, right? So Dr. Becky's talking about the days of yore, and they thought that the sun was a coal-burning power plant. And Adam's reaction is, well, has she invalidated that? And the reason for his reaction isn't because Adam thinks it burns coal. Far from it. He's saying, you don't know that it isn't that either. It's just as wrong to say it isn't a coal-burning. You don't know what it isn't either, right? So it's just as far-fetched to say it is a coal-burning power plant or it isn't a coal-burning power plant. It's like the right answer, and there is only one right answer in this instance, is I don't know what the sun is. I don't know how far it is. And all of the things that infer that people do, we've debunked, because those assertions, we don't get very many concave assertions, let's be honest, are typically heliocentric in nature. 93 million miles based on Venus and the transit thereof, utilised within Kepler's third law, with the imposition of an R value that's been assumed and debunked from Earth as a sphere. That's a lot of assumptions to give you 93 million miles and a massive size, purely by scale, because of Kepler. We don't accept any of that, especially when the R value, the integral part of the maths, has been debunked. We definitely don't accept that, begging the question, assumption in mathematics. So we don't know is the only answer that you're left with. Not, oh, I must offer an alternative and give you a distance immediately. It's just, I don't know what the sun is. I don't know that it has physicality. Nobody knows. That's the truth. If you think NASA know
Right.
what the sun is, then you're kidding yourself. They don't know. Nobody does.
And the problem is even more extensive than that, if I may, for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because even calling light physical is already like kind of tricky, because light isn't really anything until it interacts with something, and then we can register through its interaction it's even there. And that
Yeah.
includes it responding with our eyes.
But that's what we study,
right?
isn't it? The physics is that exact thing, isn't it? It's the physical. It's the physical interaction in this instance. And that's where the swindle takes place, in terms of reifying a physical interaction of light, be it with its energy, transfer or change, if you're trying to harness it in some way, versus something that can physically push you. That's different.
Well, is light affected by entropy, with the exception of the sun moving away in the evening time? Is light affected by entropy?
It like is the entropy? It's like the generation of entropy, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you like? I
Well,
mean,
then that would mean
everything
no.
is everything physical is affected by entropy.
Yes.
But
If it
But
causes entropy,
stop.
Like
That no,
doesn't
that's
get
wrong.
rejected.
No, stop. That's incorrect. What you've done is you've taken the description of something and ascribed it as a causal influencer. No, nothing is affected by entropy. Entropy is the description of what occurs, as opposed to something that can influence something to affect it. So I just want to correct that, Brian.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
No, you're right. No, is light affected by what we describe as entropy? Would be a better way to.
Well, you could, as QE says, say that in this case the sun is an entropy generator. It generates entropy. And yesterday Adam clarified this and saying, look, you can cleave. What was it that got cleaved? I've forgotten.
Oh yeah, he's talking about photo dissociation, the cleaving of the covalent bonds.
Right, covalent bonds.
yeah.
Of course, I knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, but is light itself subjected to entropy, or is it simply an influencer that triggers
We just
entropy?
literally covered that 25 seconds ago.
Yeah, see, this is the
didn't-
thing.
You weren't listening, we know.
Sorry.
I was listening. I'm right here. I just didn't really
Just
hear
drunk.
that. An answer to that. In that.
You were listening, you just didn't really hear it. Well, that's fair enough. But no, it is. I like, light is the one thing that I have no evidence for. Is the one thing that seems to be not being affected by what we describe as the entropy. I don't know how entropy, it does cause, it is entropic itself, as in it does like the sun is the greatest entropy generator. Look, why do we have things like deserts? You know what I mean? Like, so like even I have plants here that sometimes do better when the sun is not out, because of entropy. But no, I have no evidence that light is in any way manipulated or affected by what we describe as entropy.
Right, because we can only through interaction, and it basically not being light anymore even register it's there, right? So yeah, it has an entropic influence on whatever it interacts with, but without the interaction, it is not altering, it is not transforming.
I think
Isn't
AI
it?
Overlord wants
Hold
to
on
take.
a sec.
Go ahead, AI.
Objection.
Hold on 1 second, John. Go ahead, AI.
I just want to point out how hard it is to stay true to the actual language after Nathan explained that it has no causal power or affectation. That everybody's so far hasn't been able to speak in a way in which they followed the premise Nathan laid out.
Nobody followed
it's
that.
difficult.
Did anybody follow that? I didn't follow that. AI.
When you pointed out, Nathan, that there isn't a causal, you were talking about entropy and light, and you pointed out that there wasn't a causal agent. That light is entropy, or like the sun is a massive entropy generator. But the AI's point is, I maybe believe him, clear it up, but his point is that once you point that out, it's very difficult to describe what we're trying to describe after that. I think that's what AI's point is.
Well,
Okay.
another thing
Exactly.
too is the photon, electron, and there's another non-decomposable material.
Neutron.
Right.
Neutron.
Okay. Yeah. That just means that how can entropy decay something that's non-decayable?
What? How can
Yeah.
entropy decay anything?
Right, it's the description of the decay. If you want to use the word decay.
Right. Right. And something that can't decay any further. How is it going to decay?
So, is
Yeah.
entropy really an effect, or is it actually more like a
No,
pattern?
no. Hold on. It just took me a second to logically process what he was asking. Doesn't mean there's no answer, Arwin. Doesn't mean there's no entropy. Bloody hellfire. You take these things to an extreme in a heartbeat, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. No. So once that particle reaches that point, it's not reaching absolute zero, is it? It's still going to be doing something, isn't it?
Yep.
Right. Well, there you go. So entropy's still affecting it, if you want to describe it in that reification where it's causal. You can still describe the effects of entropy in that particle.
Right. Like you can apply the inverse square law to the path of light if you wanted to.
But isn't that just a pattern, right? It's a
Hold on,
derived
that's an issue.
pattern.
Oh,
that
hold
occurs
on,
always.
hold on. Am I about to start feeling very dumb about this? Yeah, you can.
Light dispersion.
That sounds like a big problem, though, John. Given our
So-
criticism of Tyson yesterday, when we talk about his journeys for his lights based on his R value, when you talk about the inverse square law, doesn't that buy directly into that notion of how light behaves? Am I wrong?
Well, it only deals with distance.
Exactly.
Doesn't necessarily deal with the journey.
Precisely. That's a problem, isn't it?
Isn't the inverse square law a description of entropic effect?
I would say yes.
Well,
That would
it's
as
light
well
dispersion
start out with a
over
concentrated
distance.
yeah, but you start out with a concentrated source of energy, and the energy disperses as it fills available space. That's entropy. Less energy per cubic meter or wherever you want to measure it over time.
Yes.
Till eventually, like if you just took all the light out and only made one light blast and then let it do its thing, eventually it would get to the point where the energy per cubic meter has decreased to the point where it's essentially not there, so negligible. I would describe that as entropy.
So what you're saying is
I would too,
there's a
and
capability of
that's-
describing how light disperses with the arrow of time, aka entropy.
But there's a
Right.
bigger question, and that is, does dark exist? Because if you can't say with
What?
certainty that dark exists, then it's just like
that's not
I suppose you could see it. I suppose you could see it like gas filling a volume, light dispersing, that kind of way.
No, you're confusing the decay of matter as just entropy.
Yeah, but who said dark? Who meant dark? I don't get why.
I
Dark
did. I said, does dark
Hold
exist?
on. Well, based on the first law, we're looking solely at the second law. When you describe the dispersion of light, it's not going to be dissipating to zero or reaching absolute zero or any of those sort of physical descriptions, is it? The energy that was within the light has changed. But that's all that's happened. So you start having to look at the first law. Because if you're going to describe it with the inverse square law, where's it ending up in that equation? Wait, what are you ending up with? It doesn't describe where it ends up going because it's not going to be destroyed. It's not going to vanish. The light may,
Right.
but that's got energy. So what happens to the energy according to the first law?
Well, look, the overall
Interacts with
energy
something and releases
from the
light.
initial blast.
Hold on, John.
Well,
Just go ahead.
I'm just calling this a blast. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to clear the airways for you, AI. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just calling the initial light thing a blast because not everybody uses that term, right? Because there's this argument about what light is. All right, whatever. Whatever happens in the initial blast, the amount of light that you release has a certain amount of total energy. You could quantify that in a cubic meter, let's say, at the point of blast. Then over time, as the light does its thing, the cubic meter area that same blast energy total, let's just call it 100%, starts to fill up, right? It fills the available space that it has to fill, essentially. as it goes over time, over distance. And the amount of energy per cubic meter is dissipated to where there's 1% here, 1% here, 1% here, 1% here, but it all adds up to 100 just over a larger volume. So in total, the same amount of energy is there, but the amount of effective energy in a particular location is less and less and less and less over time, until you could claim that you reach the absolute quote unquote zero of that light's maximum potential per cubic meter. So I would define that as energy loss over time that's available to do work, which is practically entropy, is it not?
No, that's perfect. There's nothing wrong with any of that description because light has energy. And we're perfectly within the realms of the description of first and second law to describe it that way. Very elegant, actually.
Yeah, but is dark affected by entropy?
What do you mean it's dark? What is darkness? The absence of light.
So light.
The absence of energy to be measured. It's back to the wave diffraction pattern, isn't it? Oh, right. Well, we can see it. Like, we can see the interference in the TV signal when we rig up a TV to say there's nothing there, there's no signal. It's a similar effect to that. Well, if you're not measuring anything or you've got anything to measure, how can you describe it? Well, you can only describe it as the absence of something else. Likewise, when you describe the actualization, those two bars on the photographic plate, you're describing it as the absence of something else, the absence of interference in this instance. But you're saying the absence of light. You're like, okay, that can be qualified in a number of different ways, but are you trying to get us to ascribe some physicality to the absence of light? Because that doesn't work like it does when you actualize something in wave function collapse.
Yeah, fair.
No, I'm
now fair enough. But when we describe darkness, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say that it's the absence of visible light.
We'll get to that.
Always something.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Go on, AI.
So when we describe darkness, we describe it in a relativity to the amount of light available. You know, we don't claim in our everyday life, well, let's just say on the world that we have access to, that there's anywhere where it would be absolutely dark. Because even if we created a room and shut it off from external light sources, right, we know that there's rays, allegedly, that can pass through material. We also know that there would be quote unquote photons or quote unquote energy packets of light trapped in the room bouncing around. So there'd never be a case where there was total darkness, unless you say that the light is traveling, right? And then it's not here at a particular point. So this cubic meter or this cubic inch is devoid of any light energy at that particular moment. However, I will throw a wrench in the works. There's been this thing where people think thing doesn't exist and darkness doesn't exist. But I have a Bible verse that says that God hangs the earth upon nothing and sets its bounds by darkness. So take that up your pipe and smoke it.
Okay, because that's what we need in this arena. That's the attitude we're looking for.
I'll go back to my question. Does dark exist?
Yes. The absence of light exists.
Yeah, just provided scripture.
But that's
you ever
not,
been just on a side note,
dark.
Brian? Have you ever actually been in absolute darkness?
No, that's the point.
I have. I've been in what
light.
I'd call absolute darkness. So in when my folks lived on a farm, it was in part of Britain which was the lowest light pollution in the whole country, bar none. There was no place you could get that was darker. And when there was no moon, and it was obviously nighttime, you could not see your hand in front of your face if you went outside. That's how dark it was. It was absolutely, that's what I mainly use my telescope for. I'd bung it in the back of the car, take it up to my folks, stick it up on the top of the hill. And they also had a hot tub. You could just sit and look. In other words, you turn all the lights off around you. Again, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So what does that, what do you think that means you can see? You can see the stars beautifully. Opening up, the longer you stared at them, the more you could see. It was absolutely astonishing. I highly recommend it. If you can find an area near you that's got very, very, very low light pollution, forget the telescope. You don't need it. Just go to that place, turn off your engine, get out of the car and just stand there looking up. Believe me, it will be worth it. Anyway, I just wanted to check if you'd actually experienced darkness because it's amazing. But you'll now say, well, no, you experienced the light of the stars, which you can't disagree with.
But no,
Well, there
well,
is,
I don't want to be nitpicking, but I know that. I was going to probably say that, but no, I've been in what you're talking about. I spent about half my life in the countryside where there was no light. I mean, you have to remember, this is Ireland, where there's a way less lights than there is in England. So it's super, super dark. So you walk outside the door, you have to stand there for several minutes before you could even attempt to take a step forward because you don't know where you're walking. But once my eyes adjusted, then you could see things. You could see there was different darknesses. Like a tree might be a different dark from the shade, things like that. So it wasn't in total dark. There was a lot less light, but you weren't in total dark.
No, fair enough, I agree. But I'm sure I could put you in a box and seal it up and you would experience it and you'd know what darkness was. But in any event, one of the things that Mark Sargent... just one of the things Mark Sargent talked about back in 2015 was having some night vision goggles. And he talked about what he saw with the night vision goggles in the night sky, in amongst the stars. And he talked about things flying around and all sorts. And my first reaction is, you don't need goggles for that. You can see all that stuff flying around in the sky like aliens if you've just got it dark enough and you can just let your eyes adjust for literally 5 minutes. You can take in exactly that. Now, obviously, if you've got light pollution around you, you can't, and the goggles will definitely help. But you don't need them. You can just go out to an area of very low light pollution and just look up, as long as there's stars in the sky.
I think Mark was talking about what he was talking. Just quickly, I just want to, what he was talking about is seeing things that you can't normally see, not like stars and stuff, but actual things moving around.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the same thing?
No, that's what I'm talking about. What he described is exactly what I've seen, and my wife can attest to it. We've sat in the hot tub. It's very nice, and we've been able to sit out in the cold because we're in a hot tub for hours, looking up at the stars. And as I say, the longer you're there, the more you'll see. And what Mark Sargent described with his goggles is exactly what I would describe. Identical in every way, describing things moving around like UFOs in the night sky. Stars that do stuff that you wouldn't expect, move to a point, stop, change direction and move. All that sort of stuff. You can see that with your own eyes.
Yep. I attest to that. I took my son star watching. We witnessed like a alleged star, whatever it was. It seemed to react to us looking at it. And then it moved to the right, did a little curly Q, moved again to the right, did a little curly Q, moved again to the right, did a little curly Q. Very, very interesting. I got the impression I was looking at it.
Don't do it alone. That's my only advice. If you do it alone, so if I wanted to, I could, she's not here actually, but I could call my wife in and go, without prompting, what did you see in the sky when we were in the hot tub? And she'd parrot verbatim what I said without any prompting because she saw the same as I did. So when you describe AI Overlord, you going stargazing with your son and describing something changing direction, you're not going to get some arsehole come along and go, it's probably just a floater in your eye. Whereas if you've got someone with you, a witness, you can go, no, we both saw the same shooting star come from the horizon upwards and disappear. Or we saw the same light phenomena that moved, changed directions, that got larger, that did whatever it did, made a squiggly path through the sky. As long as you're both looking at roughly the same area and talking about what you're seeing.
Yeah, I have had interaction with those exact lights in the sky, where I actually was able to, we had a very powerful flashlight. I was able to flash them with the flashlight and it flashed me back. And I got to the point where I could wave, where I was out in the dark, I could put my hand up to kind of wave and I would get a flashback.
Right.
You know, and I had actually had that exact asshole who was a relative of mine who I hate, who was treating me like a lawyer. And then one night he happened to be out at a beach one evening where I was in the winter, two of us, and it was still really dark, but the sky was lit up because it was so dark. There's no trees around us and everything, very, very dark, no light. And we saw 8 things moving around within 5 minutes. So these things are real, and these things are really there. What they are, I don't know, but this is real.
They're satellites, Brian.
No, well, it's not that you need to necessarily ascribe any description to them, right? Because without the shackles of a heliocentric belief, none of that is of any concern, is it? So what would be my attitude if someone was to say it and say, well, therefore UFOs, or therefore whatever the assertion they make, satellites. I go, no, you just see stuff in the sky. It's only because you've got a heliocentric paradigm that you need stuff to be orbiting a sphere Earth. Therefore, whatever you see in the sky must be described by something orbital. It's like, if I don't have that assumption, I don't care. I just look at it and go, look at that thing moving around. I wonder what that is. No idea. Cool though, isn't it? That's it. That's as much concern I ascribe to
Can
it.
Can I give a silly thing that I heard while watching physics lectures?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like legitimate physics lectures with an audience, right? At official companies, official organizations, right? Like university level and above. Physicists will get on there and they will say that humanity is evolving where we're going to merge with machines. And eventually we're going to evolve past the need for the machine and become disembodied energetic consciousnesses that are going to float up into the cosmos. So some of those things that you see in the sky are actually our ancestors that have already evolved into star-like beings. For real.
Wow. People really want to be gods, don't they? They want to life eternal. And
that smells like bullshit.
Say again?
Oh, well, it obviously is. But the point I'm making is that, yes, it's ridiculous for certain heliocentric claims. But remember, a lot of their claims are religious and metaphysical in their end goal and end point.
Precisely. You need to know what the sky is. Well, we know, and we can tell you. And we've got priests who can back it up. And we've got scriptures that can back it up. So when we say it's a rock in a sky vacuum floating around, check out our magic books that say it's exactly that. And look at our history that says it's exactly that. And they've known for thousands of years, Dumbo.
Yeah, keep in mind, this idea about transcending to a spirit consciousness didn't occur in a church, right? Didn't occur in a witch's coven. It occurred on a lecture stage at a physics lecture.
Yeah, there's a bit far-fetched, that.
Which is where we come in, right? We're the antidote.
Well, they had a lot of material to pull from.
None of it's science. So while you say they were around a table at a physics lecture, they undoubtedly were coming up with ideas for how the world works and Big Bang philosophies and all the rest of it. So they're philosophers, but they're not scientists.
Yeah, it was sponsored by Facebook's parent company. So the actual lecture, this is a joke, was called Meta Physics.
There you go. Proof is in the title. They tend to put these sorts of things on the front cover. Pseudo-Ramonian for space-time, i.e. space and time bending, i.e. current gravity. It's right in the title. Pseudo.
Well, if we go back to the original question, which was any evidence of the distance to the sun, not so much the real question, but a sidebar question that is very pertinent, and it actually brings it back to its root and its origin is, why is there a claim size and distance to the sun? Why? And it all goes back to shadows. You have to explain how the shadows we see in reality, how they would work over a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. That's where it comes. That whole thing starts with Eratosthenes. The claim of Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes measured an elevation angle. So he measured a horizontal distance. And the shadows were the proof of that. So how did they turn that into a globe? They must make the sun bigger, way bigger, but they also, because it has to be bigger in diameter than the globe to create the shadows, it also has to be far enough away to match the angular size we see in the sky. Well, if it even has an angular size. I've never seen its actual size, so I can't claim it has an angular size. I don't know what it is. But you can measure a half a degree kind of thing as an average. But that's why they have a claim of a size and a distance to the sun, because they need to explain the shadows. So they have this big heliocentric universe story all based around them having to explain shadows. As opposed to, no, the sun is there, we're on a flat plane, that's why the shadow looks like that. They couldn't handle that. They needed to turn that into a shadow on a globe. And how would that work? How would you get those shadows on a globe? Well, you'd have to have a much bigger sun, and then it'd have to be so far away to match the angular size we see, blah, 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 blah. You know, so that's where that comes from. It's shadows.
But it's actually violating the very principle that they're using in the first instance. So you said, you did mention it, he's taking an elevation angle. So what? So when they bend the surface that they took the angle from, they can justify the faraway sun for the shadows, but they've just violated the angle measurements that they're trying to explain. So it's kind of asked about face when you've measured it with a flat Earth, right, Brian?
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. You see, they start arguing about the sun and how on a globe this creates the shadows. But the only reason they have the curved surface for their shadows is because they ignore the elevation angle. So they went away from the elevation angle and went straight to the sun, how big that has to be and how far away that has to be to give them what they needed to give them mathematically. But the whole thing started with an elevation angle from Eratosthenes, who, from logical inference, all I would say is that what the man was doing, if he was real and did that, is he was just demonstrating how you measure using angles, elevation angles, how you measure using the elevation angle and the zenith angle. Measure a distance. That's what I say he was demonstrating at the time. I'd say that's what it was. But anyway, that's just speculation. But
so
go on.
So therefore proving you need a flat Earth to have a globe.
Well, yeah, you can't have those shadows in the first place without a flat plane. You can't measure the distance to the GP point of the sun without the flat plane. You can't do any of these things.
Well, might as well ask the question. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No.
There's no such thing.
Right. Any
Adjacent
evidence?
and curved.
What about any evidence that level runs equidistant to the centre of Earth?
Any evidence that all points along a level runs equidistant to the centre of the Earth? Is that what it is? That would be no.
We're happy to forego the rest of the housekeeping questions, mainly because we're like 40 minutes into this show now. We've got a video. Smolin, hopefully I'm saying that right. How can space and time be the same thing? Okay. Didn't we cover this yesterday? Okay.
Well, yes, but there's going to be one more after this, so keep going.
One more after this? What do you mean?
Well, space-time, Einstein. I mean, what? We're just going to watch one video and say that's it? No, you got this one. I got another one after this one. So just take this one for today.
Okay. Well, is everyone keen to do this? I'm going to start at a random point, semi-random.
Absolutely.
I'll scroll through with a few of the subtitles to get an idea of when they're talking about causal relationships. I might be wrong.
If you need more videos, I got about 70 of them.
No.
Yeah, man.
I've
encouraged people to send them. It's only 10th man doing it.
Before you leave,
just a quick shout out to Divergent Droid. Just good to see him back. Glad to see you well, mate. Nice to see you back in chat.
Our best mod was.
Yeah, I recommend just start at the beginning. Just start at the beginning, Nathan.
Start at the beginning? Really?
Well, right when it says play. Yes.
Yes, I know how to get to the beginning. Thank you.
They're mobile. They can curve. They can slow. They can expand. And but the two are really unified together. And
you sure we can't just start about the 4-minute mark? Because we're going to be forever.
We need to understand space-time is critical to understand the nature of our universe.
Is it? Understanding the nature of space and time when reified into 4-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian geometry? Definitely not. Yeah, that's conceptual. Pseudo-Riemannian geometry isn't something that affects our reality. So the nature of universe isn't a real concern to me when we're talking about 4th-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian for space-time bending, which is what this is about, right?
It's the most important question.
Okay, so
what is time? What is...
Is it? This is the most important question? Really? How so? A question about pseudo-geometry is the most important question. Anybody agree with him? Other than debunking it, what level of importance do we ascribe here to space and time, given that it's a pseudo-Riemannian for space-time that this particular discussion's about?
The most important.
Nathan, you know that they need to take it into mathematics because it's not physics, it's not reality. And for their paradigm to exist, it could only exist in the math. So this is why they're doing it.
But to him, it's the most important thing, this reification of mathematical descriptions in pseudo-4 space. How is this important at all?
Well, of course it is. I'll tell you why it's important, because that's the only place they have their globe. They have their current paradigm. It's so important they have to have them make it up in the math world because it's not in the real world. That's essential for the globe.
There it is. That's what I was looking for.
Space.
Okay, even more important than what are the particles and what are the forces. And we want to understand.
So, more important than the physics is our pseudo maths. Yeah, well said. Is this guy a good wizard? Who's this guy?
I think so.
So some people have thought of it as it's the arena in which all the act of particles and physics play out. But
right, what he's saying is some people would consider pseudo-Riemannian 4 space as a reality where stuff happens. It's not. It's a pseudo-4 space geometry created by Einstein. It's not a place that stuff in the physical happens. Very much not the case at all. Just a reified mathematical description of things in a dimension that isn't real. Amazing that, isn't it? Tell us again how important it is.
But it may be more than that.
Even more than the most important thing ever. Than what, a realm where the physics takes place. It isn't. So it's definitely not more than a place where the physics takes place, because it isn't a place where the physics takes place. So no. Anyone else want to pipe up on this? Feel free.
Well, there hasn't been enough context yet. I haven't gotten to where they're actually going with it yet.
We know where they're going.
It's
It's in the
gonna get
title.
there, Brian.
It's in the title. How can space and time be the same thing? They can't. Space, what, like length, breadth, and depth? Where I describe my table that I can touch being. What about the time? What are you talking about? What, how much entropy has affected it? If I reify it as a cause? I'm going to have to be careful with my words from here on. Aye, he's ace. He's not here at the moment, but shout out to you.
Basic division
Well,
in the subject.
Time is a concept. Time is a concept. Space is a description, so they're not the same. That's it. That's really the end of that. There's no need to make the video.
I agree, Brian, exactly. But we see it as important that these people reify it and describe your world with it. That's why we're here. That's what we do best. Please share the show.
Subject.
Yeah,
goes
I know that
back.
then though. Their video was pointless.
Yeah, totally. It's just here to deceive you. This is just a big lie. Convincing you that you live in a fourth dimensional space-time. Why? Well, because you've got a whole worldview and paradigm that is out there to convince you of exactly that. For religious belief purposes. And the exploitation that it provides to the people who disseminate it.
A long time. It goes back to debates between Newton and his contemporaries, Leibniz and other contemporaries.
If you've got actual scientific validity, there's no debate about it. You've got a cause and effect relationship validated by experiment. If it's real science, there's no debate, ever.
And the big question is space an arena?
You don't have to ask any questions about whether or not your 4D space-time geometry is real and an arena. No. Fourth dimensional space-time is a mathematical description described in the title as pseudo. That's sham, fake, not real. What you want to question whether or not it's the arena that the world actually has things taking place in? Definitely not. A pseudo 4 space-time geometry. No, we don't exist in a 4D space-time geometry. Shout out to Godzilla37, who says, big shout out to DD, welcome back. Divergent Droid. Thank you for the super chat.
In which things happen, in which
No, things don't happen in 4D space-time.
things come on and off.
No, things don't turn on and off in it either. Another shout out to Godzilla37 who says, this one's for free for being a member. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Or is there no arena? Is space just a network of relationships?
Relationships, what, like in physical terms? No, definitely not. In mathematical terms, oh yeah, definitely. It's a fourth dimensional space-time geometry you can describe in the conceptions of maths. Definitely, the relationships between the maths. Oh yeah, you can describe those. What was that? How they affect us in physical terms? In the space we occupy? No, definitely not.
A way to ask the question is if the whole universe were moved entirely 10 meters to the left,
Why would we ask such nonsense?
would it matter?
What's a
Does
universe?
it even mean something to say that? Because
What if I asked whether or not it would matter if I moved the universe 10 meters to the left? What he's doing is doing a ham-handed way of juxtaposing his crap comparison about moving the universe with the actuality of him claiming what the universe is in its entirety?
Because no relationships would change.
Right.
And Newton said, yes, it is different. And Leibniz said, no, it's even wrong to ask the question because...
Questions in science would be in regards to physical phenomena that we can study. There's no debate when it comes to science. The great questions are irrelevant. What caused that to happen is what science deals with. This is philosophy.
There's no discernible difference between the universe here and the universe 10 meters to the left. And this...
Oh, really? Says who? Have you moved it? Are you just making this philosophical, nonsensical statement based on your hyperbole? Because it seems like that. And it is like that, because it matters not how you move the universe, you can't move it, but you want to conjure the impression that universes are going to be moved with your descriptions that are going to follow, I don't doubt.
It's a very question of whether space...
Go on.
Has he defined what he means by universe yet? Because I'm not sure what he's talking about.
The guy interviewing him, or
what's a universe?
The guest isn't exactly appealing for the Socratic method to be adhered to, Brian, let's be honest. He's just nodding along and going, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
even more to that.
Go on, John.
Well, more to that too. Distance moves is in reality, right? How are we going to move reality? Where distance happens outside. It seems so flawed as a question. Like saying.
That's because it's not a question he's really asking.
Something like that.
Even answered by saying it's inconsequential, it'd make no difference. All he's doing as a crap wizard, unlike Tyson, who's a lot more amenable or whatever the word is, he's trying to just plant the seed of universe-sized stuff happening. Worlds being moved, universes being moved, godlike stuff. He's just conjuring the image in the mind's eye of the person he's talking to, and then relinquishing the idea that would in any way need justification by saying it wouldn't matter either way. But then all you're left with is the seed of, so we're talking about the whole universe. That's all he's doing. It's crap. He's not a very good magician.
He's validating his maths, isn't he? At this point, he's tried to show that his maths are so powerful, he can demonstrate that if you move the whole universe 10 meters that way, it stays the same. So his maths is correct. So he should trust his maths going forward in the next assertion he's going to make using maths.
A framework, an absolute background, or whether space is an aspect of reality that grows out of
a framework.
Framework? Me and Brian in unison. That sounds familiar. That sounds like nonsense pseudoscience peddled by flat earthers, doesn't it, Brian?
Yes, the Ethereans.
The Ethereans! They say the same thing, don't they? In their nonsense pseudoscience world of anti-space.
Well, that's interesting, that, isn't it? That we've abandoned science. We're going to use a logical framework. We can't use science. Won't support our argument. So we'll adopt a logical framework. I wonder if they've got their logical framework defined, or if it's just one that just floats around and manifests at will and changes.
Well, no, just by the title, just going to answer Adam, because he was rhetorical, but because of the title of the video, it's space and time that they're talking about. So their framework is the pseudo-Riemannian force-space geometry developed by Einstein. That's made clear in the title.
No, I'm on about the framework for proof.
Proof,
Well,
that would
they
be
have
evidence.
gravitons.
Evidence is provided by systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. You can get that proof from the scientific method if you follow it.
But not a logic. Don't just any logical framework.
Well, it has logic behind it. If A, then B, or if A, not B, that's a hypothesis. But you have to insert an independent and dependent variable, aka a phenomenon you're studying, that you go, wonder what caused that, and a presumed cause of it that you vary to validate it caused it. That's proof. That's an experiment, by the way.
Yeah, but their ether is gravitons, a massless particle that moves around instantaneously.
Can you show me one?
No.
You just said it was massive.
I've got a couple in the boot of the car.
Wicked. Let's have a look at them. I want to see how well they bend.
Massless, not massive. Massless particle.
Mass less?
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on before we get into this nonsense.
The network of relationships, of causality, of change.
Causality? Wow, that sounds cool. Look at this smiling face. I'm about to talk about causality. Cause, well, like cause and effect. Yeah, that's what science deals with. The cause of an effect. That's causality. But you're not going to be talking about that, are you, Smug Smiler? No. You're going to be talking about your logical framework. Nothing with empiricism attached, no proof. Just your logical framework that's been debated about by scientists. I mean, pseudoscientists. Talking about maths. Debating and philosophizing about maths.
Is the fundamental question, as has been for 400 years.
Okay, so
that's it. The fundamental question about logical frameworks and their causality? Definitely not. I mean, maybe there's a lot of pipe-smoking wankers sat around talking shite, but who cares?
So if we're trying to understand the nature of space at this...
If we're trying to understand the nature of anything, we'd be putting it through the scientific method, because the nature of something is how it behaves. And how it behaves is a phenomena. And phenomena is the exclusive purview of scientific method when it comes to understanding the causal relationships, aka causality. So if we're trying to understand the nature of space, well, that would be a concrete noun if you're describing mere three-dimensionality. So that wouldn't be the subject of science at all.
At this point, we're dealing with...
Come.
I was going to say, he's not looking for a cause and effect relationship. He's looking for the cause of causality, is what he said.
Absurd.
Different concepts as well. We're dealing with relationships.
Concepts? Why is that being discussed? What, like conceptual fourth dimensional mediums? Those sorts of concepts. You see, conceptually, I don't give a shit about your nonsense, you bloody slipper-wearing, pipe-smoking, fundamentalist religious zealot. None of this is of concern to me. These are just idiot philosophers, as far as I'm concerned. Their nonsense isn't worthy of the Western worldview.
Yes.
We're dealing with causation.
Are we? What, like cause and effect exclusively dealt with within science? That cause is the independent variable in your hypothesis? When studying effects, that's things that happen in nature. So this is part of the swindle. This is science that they're talking about. They're not saying it, but that is definitely what is the causation and the cause when you're talking about how the nature of things are. But that is definitely not what these wankers are talking about. It's an outrage. They're talking about your nature. No. They're making you think about nature and how it could be in the mind's eye of these philosophers. Thinking about things doesn't make things so.
Yes.
And so those are very fundamental ideas, but what you're saying is that...
Fundamental ideas? Which one are we talking about? Fundamental ideas or the nature of reality? Because fundamental ideas don't affect reality, they're just ideas.
To understand space, we may have to understand...
Back to understanding concrete nouns in nature.
Those other two, which may be more fundamental than...
He just keeps using this big word fundamental to make him, what, think that this is the whole world that you're talking about at a fundamental level? When you're not? This is a crap magic trick, my friend. Yeah, look, you need to watch a bit of Neil deGrasse Tyson if you want to know how to do these magic tricks, because you're not doing a good job.
In space itself.
Yes, and indeed, one can take general relativity, and if you...
Well, can we? You can. Well, thanks for the permission. Can we also shove it in a space rocket and blast it off into the sky vacuum? Can we do that too? Do we need your permission? I don't think we do.
Ask what in that...
You're telling me what I can ask after I accept relativity? Oh, thanks. This is really nice of you to give me all this permission. I won't be asking your permission when I rip this to shreds in a few seconds, I'll be honest with you.
Sophisticated mathematics, is it really...
Mathematics? What, like conceptual descriptions? Like, not physical reality, then. Sophisticated conceptual descriptions? Oh, they're not affecting my reality, my friend.
Someone from Discord wanted to say something, Dave.
Oh, go ahead, whoever it was.
Oh, I just wanted to say I got a few Elon Musk videos, him talking nonsense.
Sounds great. Maybe tomorrow. Got about 5 more minutes on this live show. We will cover it again in the after show. And to be fair to 10th, we are about 2.5 minutes in, and there's already been plenty of meat on this bone, so I'm glad I went right back to the beginning within about 10 or 15 seconds.
Nature of space and time.
Right.
What it is asserting about space and time...
Sorry, what's it? you stumbled over that and sort of stuttered about what it is saying. What's it? Have we just reified the mathematics that are sophisticated into something with lips asserting things? What's it saying? What's it asserting? Hello? This sounds like a reification fallacy.
Is it the most fundamental relationships are relationships of causality?
That's what it's saying, is it? Once you've reified it and given it lips, it's saying that, is it? That's what it's asserting? No, this is a reification fallacy.
This is the modern way of understanding Einstein's theory of general relativity.
Understanding fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian fourth space-time bending.
And
so...
yeah, let's be honest. The modern, a more real modern, because this is modern, we're modern, way of viewing Einstein's general relativity is that it's a crap version of H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, isn't it? That's what it is. It's like really bad sci-fi.
Well, H.P. Lovecraft based his nonsense off Einsteinian nonsense.
Say that one more time, John.
H.P. Lovecraft based his nonsense off of, heliocentric nonsense. It's sort of like Scientology, same idea.
Or Mormonism.
Yeah, but he's not trying to promote it as physics and science.
Out the structure, an event happens and light goes out of it. We have these pictures of light cones going out. And if you...
All right, so now he's alluding to having some sort of evidence to what he suggests. We're going to be back to lights in the sky, right? So all of this bullshit's going to be backed up by pictures of lights in the sky. He's just dropped it in there subtly.
By pictures, does he mean photographs?
Might be photographs with just so stories about relativity that go along with it. But who cares? Pictures of lights in the sky. So what?
Travel from that...
As light goes out over time at the speed of light, it covers in greater and greater distance.
At the speed of light, light covers a greater and greater distance because of the speed of light. Ascribing causality to this description in mathematics that's wrong. As Brian will now detail. Or not. I mean, we could just round out. You'll get it in the after show when he's come back from having a poo.
Sorry, I walked away from the phone. A speed of light? No, there is no speed of light. There's no one-way speed of light ever measured, and probably never will be. The two-way speed of light is based on 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages. It's a calculation that is purely dependent on Kepler's analemma being correct, which would involve a globe Earth and its 12-month off-center orbit around a heliocentric sun.
Is he not denying what Neil deGrasse Tyson said yesterday? Is he not affirming a journey now?
Seems to be, yeah. There is a contradiction we will highlight in the after show. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Outside
is
of
anybody,
the physical
is anybody
world.
here? Oh.
Is anybody there?
Yeah, I was talking.
Was anyone else laughing whenever Nathan said, "You gave it lips"?
What was funny about that?
Well, was I
Oh,
not
no,
talking?
I was just thinking about the little kissy emoji.
Fair enough. I sometimes confuse
Just
reification with anthropomorphization, which are subtly similar, but not quite the same. So giving things human-like properties, like lungs and talking and lips, that's anthropomorphization.
It's a lot more entertaining. Do that more.
Oh, thank you. Do we want to carry on with this, by the way? Or are we done with this?
Also,
Yeah,
I just
let's
want
keep it
to say
going.
that
We're not done with it.
I just want that last video with Becky, when you had me laughing whenever you said, "Really, Dr. Becky? Does it keep you up at night?"
Nathan, can I get a sound check, please?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Well, let's have some civility on this show. Yes, please continue.
Okie dokie 10th.
Okay, so you imagine a sphere going out.
Right.
Now, if it later...
Why? Anybody? If you're on the show, right, this guy.
Yeah.
We would tell you that we don't beg the question here. That would be our response to that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. What are you supposed to be imagining, and why are you imagining it? What has imagination got to do with physics and reality?
But what's he doing? He's doing the first golden rule that you don't break on flat Earth debate. Don't beg the question. Well, what's he doing? Automatically assume the outcome of this is that we're on a sphere. Ready? We're all in agreement? Everybody imagining that they're on a sphere? Right, now I'll start with my example. That's called a begging the question fallacy. It's a textbook example.
Later event happens within that sphere, information could have reached there from the first event going at slower than the speed of light. And
so based on Earth being a sphere with a radius value, it's now got a speed of light. Based on the Earth being a sphere with a radius value. But it's all good, because you already assumed that. So my radius value gave me the speed of light, so I can carry on with this begging the question fallacy on steroids now.
And so there could be a causal relation. There will.
Oh, we're back to causality and relationships that are dealt with science. If there's a causal relation, then it's exclusively dealt with natural science if it's a phenomena we're observing. And you're alluding to this being our physics, aren't you? The realm we live in? Causation and the nature of things? What a swindle. That would be inside the purview of science. That's a cause and effect relationship being established through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. This isn't that.
Be a causal relation between the first event and the second. Right. If another event is so far away that light could not have gotten there.
Insert your begging the question fallacy answer and explanation for it after we've all assumed that Earth's a sphere with a sphere-based R value implied when giving us a speed for the light that's travelling. This is what we're going to get now. Your explanation for all of those assumptions being intact after we all beg the question with you. What an outrage.
Then there's no causal relation. And the interesting thing is, if you write down a list of all the causal relations between all the...
No, so we're talking about cause quite a lot here. This is dealt with by science. Yeah, that's exclusively what science deals with. Bloody pseudoscientists talking about... They're like so brazen with it, aren't they? Talking about cause over and over again. Man, what an outrage. It's because nobody's out there calling these idiots on it, are they? Excuse me, what do you say? Cause? So this is to do with nature. Cause and nature. That's exclusively dealt with by a method of science called the scientific method. Has this gone through it? No, just your hyperbole, just your nonsense, just your waffle about what you discussed with other philosophers and discussed about philosophers 400 years ago. All pipe-smoking bullshitters with sandals on.
All the events in the universe, you describe the geometry of space-time almost completely.
Oh. No, Einstein invented a geometry for space-time. That's what space-time is. It's a fourth-dimensional space-time dimension. That's what it is. Not describe the geometry. It is the geometry invented by Einstein. But you smile because we're all going to assume that this description of this geometry is the world as you've just described it, as fantasized by the philosophers of yore. You smug git. No. Einstein's pseudo-Riemannian four-space-time dimension isn't real. Conceptual only, as you've disclaimed.
There's still a little bit of information that you have to put in, which is counting, which is how many events take place.
Information? What, like causally linked? What, like in the delayed choice quantum eraser and double slit experiments? What, actual science? You're hijacking that too? My God, where's this going to end? you need to be a bit more careful with what you throw in when you bullshit people, because some of your scientific nonsense is actually validated within science, i.e. it's adhered to the method, the one that all of your causation and causality in nature hasn't been through.
So
Nathan,
do you realize? Hang on. Nathan, your antennas are up. Our antennas are up. So we're picking it apart, and you're doing a great job. But you got to realize, 99.9% of the Western world is going to watch this video and suspend disbelief and go into the math universe, the math causation. And they're going to reify it as the reality. So this is why it's important that you're breaking all this stuff down. Thank you.
It is, but this guy is appealing to an intellectual audience that already, to a certain extent or level, understands what he's saying, because he's not doing that. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying, unlike Becky or NDT, what they both did was take their discussion partner to the realm of fantasy before they start implying that it is the world that we're living in. This guy isn't doing that. So on a purely magic trick basis, he hasn't taken me or the guest or you as an audience member to a place of spaghettification or black holes or time dilation. He hasn't taken us there yet, has he?
I'm just trying to figure out what he was claiming there. This causal relationship. Now, he describes it briefly. There's no causal relationships. He's having statistical relationships. So based on whether or not things, the speed of light could, a photon could get there. So if it can, and there is a correlation between the numbers, then he's implying cause. That's what he seems to be setting his validation up for. He's validated it by saying, well, it can't be causal if it can't get there by the speed of light. But if it can, and the numbers have some form of relationship, then we can say that it's causal, which is not science.
Everything.
So whereas the common perception is that we have space.
I was going to say, he's used cause enough that it's lost its meaning in this context. Like, he's just used that word over and over again and not used it correctly. He just turned it into some this ethereal concept that he can just keep saying to validate what he's speaking about.
No, he's used the word causal relationship to infer to us cause. But if you look up causal relationship, it is a statistical thing. Yeah, it is a thing. It's the method of analysis he's going to apply to his data to draw inference.
I needed you to tell us that, because I didn't know that. So need a mathematician on the panel to point that out. I didn't catch that. So he could have called foul on me. No, I made it clear it was a statistical relationship. When I said, what was the term? Causal relationship. When he uses it, it's specifically in that way.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I'm trying to figure out what he's saying.
He wouldn't have got that far because his whole premise starts with, because all of their premises when it comes to the general relativity and anything Einstein related all start with Einstein's convention, which is the two-way speed of light claim.
Just
it all
Brian,
starts with that.
Can you detail that for about 3 minutes so I can make a drink?
Yeah, okay. There's a claim that the two-way speed of light was measured. No, the one-way speed of light was never measured and probably never will be. The two-way speed of light is based on 4 pre-assumptions. The pre-assumption that we are on a globe Earth with the pre-assumption that we have a measured radius value for that globe Earth. The pre-assumption that the sun is also a globe and also has a measured radius value. And the pre-assumption that Kepler's analemma is correct and that we orbit the sun, right? So the two calculations are, the two averages are the average radius of the radii of the globe Earth and the average distance between the globe Earth and the heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. There is no measurement of the speed of light. Nobody has ever measured it and probably ever will. There was one guy called Fizeau who just back calculated the same exact thing as was already in existence. And he claimed that he measured a very, very small amount of microseconds. There's 1 million microseconds in 1 second. And this was back a couple of hundred years ago. And he didn't measure anything. He just back calculated to match the same as everyone else since Kepler's and LMS, since they started claiming a speed to light, a two-way speed measurement. Everyone has just back calculated, no matter what process they go through. It's all based on back calculating, so they can reach the same conclusion as the original conclusion, which is based on 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages. So averages are not measurements; they are calculations. There is no two-way speed of light. There is no one-way speed of light. It doesn't exist. But Einstein needed it for his general relativity and his E equals mc squared equation, because what he needed was to give, basically he was trying to give entropy a rate within his heliocentric universe, because his whole general relativity is all reliant on that two-way speed of light calculation. Without that, his whole shtick falls apart, because what he needed was there not to be a spooky action distance, I think was what they called it, where you have instantaneous action, which would have been what they term as Newtonian gravity, which is really Cavendish, Reverend John Michel gravity, where there's an instantaneous reaction. So the bigger mass, let's say the sun does something, so that instantaneously has a reaction on the globe Earth. But in Einstein's relativity, it isn't instantaneous. There's no pull. There's no two-way. There's no pull of attraction between masses. There's no two masses. It only accounts for one mass, and there is no instantaneous reaction throughout his universe. It is all limited to the two-way speed of light calculation.
Brian's logic, ladies and gentlemen. Was someone from Discord wanted to add something? Hopefully challenge Brian.
No, I was just going to butt in so he could take a breath and just say something else. That was all.
Brian's awesome. Who else could I relied on to get a cup of coffee in me? Fantastic, Brian. You're ace.
Thank you.
And in the space, there are relationships like my chair and your chair, or there are causes that I push your chair and you move a little bit.
So now we're establishing that we're talking about physical forces, the force of someone pushing something in a chair. Okay, cool.
That is an artificial distinction, that maybe it's the events themselves that create the concept of space?
Yes.
What? That sounded like a really ham-handed segue. Did anybody follow that to get a yes at the end?
That was such gobbledygook. It's crazy what the guy just said.
Well, it's back to philosophy. Back to there is no. I think that they're kind of working off of there is no instantaneous action. That there is no relationship between two masses, kind of thing. It's just there is only the apparent relationship that doesn't exist.
But he just described an actual relationship and something moving, someone pushing someone in a chair.
But then the other guy came in on top of him to talk about, if we go back, he's talking about how it's only appears to be that way. That's the way he was speaking from what I remember.
Okay.
Kind of the distinction between Newtonian and Einsteinian.
I mean,
also,
and that's
also,
not just...
Also, just so the audience realizes, the space he's talking about there is the space between him and that guy and where the chairs fill. It's not talking about outer space, but he's going to make a connection.
Right, yeah, he's talking about Euclidean 3 space and pushing a chair within one of those dimensions, or a couple of those dimensions, right? As it's not going up or down. But he's juxtaposing that with pseudo-Riemannian 4 space-time, which is a fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry. So he's just contrasting the two. We're filling in the blanks in terms of him contrasting Newtonian with Einsteinian, but he didn't do that. Again, it was really crap in terms of just going from, well, if I describe the force in 3D space of pushing something and describe that as space, you're like, okay, but the space you're talking about, it's in the title again, is space-time. It's fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry. So it isn't anything to do with Euclidean chairs moving in 3D space. And he hasn't made that connection. Again, this is crap. You know, go and watch Better Wizards.
He has worked in a confusion between causality and a mathematical relationship. So that now he has a causal relationship, but not necessarily talking about the cause of anything.
But the other guy's done it for him, because the other guy's just said, well, when we're talking about the relationship in space, it's just not mentioned that he's talking about Euclidean 3 space, and then describing something occurring in that realm that we actually inhabit when he moves a chair in it. Very easy to understand. But when the other guy agreed with him, he's essentially saying, yeah, let's buy into this what would it be? It's a fallacy, isn't it, when you're taking two different things to mean the same thing? Space in this instance isn't space time. I've forgotten the name of the fallacy. It'll come to me.
Equivalence.
The law of identity values?
No, I think someone else just said it. Adam, what did you say?
Equivalence.
Yes.
It's the best way of understanding both the principles and the mathematics of Einstein's theory of general relativity.
I mean, understanding the maths of pseudo-4 space-time has no bearing on what the man just said to you about moving a chair in physical 3D space.
Now, this sounds very profound. Are there implications of this that you can say, okay, if that's true, then what?
No, I'll answer this before you ask it. Are there implications based on what he says within pseudo-geometry? No, there's no implications whatsoever. I mean, other than what he writes down at the end. But that doesn't affect our reality.
Follows. What would then happen that we...
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing that is described in 4D pseudo-Riemannian space-time will affect your reality in any way, shape, or form like you just described with moving a chair.
We can see an observation or learn about our world, or...
You can't. It won't teach you anything about the world because it was invented in the mind's eye of a philosopher. It's a mathematical description of a dimension that isn't real.
Is this just some philosophical...
Yes, it is.
Idea.
Yes.
For example, the whole idea of what a black hole is.
Idea of what a black hole is? The whole idea? So you're answering yes then, with a big smile. Yes, it's just us philosophizing. Yes, the whole idea of a black hole. No. Shouldn't this be something in physical reality that you and your pseudo fourth dimensional space-time have to actually justify why it's not just a pseudoscience philosophy, as the guy's asking? Are you moving straight on to the philosophizing about what black holes are and the idea of them? Wow.
Comes from thinking about
the idea of black holes comes from thinking? Isn't that a bit redundant?
Causal relations, a horizon.
Oh, causal relationships. The idea of thinking about a black hole comes from thinking about causal relationships. Is that so? See, there was me thinking that causality and causal relationships was dealt with exclusively by the scientific method. That's if you want empirical evidence, aka proof of anything. I mean, obviously, the philosophy of thinking about things will induce the thinking about causality, and therefore the thinking of it makes it physical. No, definitely not. Bloody sandal wearers. Bloody pipe smokers.
Is a boundary to what can be causally influenced by what's, quote, inside the black hole.
No, there's no causal influence. If there was, you could establish this causal relationship with scientific method and have some empiricism to that which you speak. You haven't. You don't. And you're answering in the affirmative because he asked you if this was philosophy. And this is him answering in the affirmative, by the way. Go on, whoever that was.
Yeah, that was me. First he says the idea of a black hole. Then he says some causal power inside that black hole. Just making stuff up as you go. Might as well throw a woolen sweater with that sandal and pipe.
The idea of unicorns brings forth the causality of the idea of unicorns. And inside the unicorn's horn, there is the power to affect the causality of your world. Puff, puff, puff. Sandals.
Can I just say that?
So if you want to really...
Sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just saying, you just got to call it a causal relationship between the unicorn horn and entropy, and then show that mathematical relationship. And Bob's your uncle, you're done.
I did that in fifth dimensional space-time. So, I mean, it's one more. It's better.
Really conceive of what a black hole is, you have to think of it in terms of cause.
To have it be conceived, you have to think about it. I mean, if you're going to be a good wizard, don't just lay out the lie in black and white. Because that's what you've just done. You've told him it's just thinking about it.
Causality and causal relations. The idea of the singularity at the beginning of the universe.
Why is it we're talking about ideas a lot? It's just asked you, is this a load of old philosophy nonsense? And you keep talking about ideas, about singularities and black holes. Again, this is him answering in the affirmative? Yeah, it's definitely just a load of philosophical nonsense.
That space and time cannot be continued beyond a certain set of events.
No. You're talking about fourth dimensional space-time geometry and what it does in regards to events. That's phenomena, things happening. Again, dealt with by science, not dealt with by philosophy, not dealt with by conceptions, not dealt with by reification, not dealt with by you, bloody pipe-smoking, sandal-wearing fundy.
Came from thinking about the causality. This was a kind of
Nothing came from thinking about causality. I can think about what causes something all day long, and nothing will ever come from it. But if I suppose a cause of it and vary it and see if it does, cause it, that is, then I can say I've empirically validated something through science.
Evolution and our understanding of general relativity brought up.
Well, all it's going to do is help you about your general understanding of Einstein's mathematics. That's what it'll help you with. Well, that's not very much use.
About principally by Roger Penrose in the 1960s.
Okay, so now we have.
So what? Just some appeal to authority, some appeal to some source that doesn't in any way back it. It was written about by this guy. All right. And Narnia was written about by this other guy. It's amazing, isn't it? What people write down. Sorry, you've also got an empirical method of establishing causality open to you. But what, you're going to refer to a book from the 60s? That's your source? What about some empirical evidence for this shit? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there isn't any. Your worldview's been made by pipe-smoking, sandal-wearing fundies who talk shit and then reference books from the 60s because stuff's been written down. That's your standard.
Sort of this new concept of space as perhaps an...
Concept of space? What concepts of space are our reality? So you're buying wholeheartedly into this conceptual medium and the descriptions in philosophy? Why not just affirm that he's just answered you in the affirmative? Yeah, so you are definitely agreeing this is just philosophical then? Yeah, not in any way really affecting our reality, but we can muse about it all day, can't we? Where's your pipe?
An emergent property of relationships and...
No emergent property of relationships, because that would be something that took place in the physical.
Causes between events.
No, not causes, because again, that would take place in the physical also. Why did you ask him if it was philosophy, if you're now going to ignore the answer? He's affirmed. It is.
Now let's bring time into it, because...
Why? Time? What? This further concept? Okay, I don't see why.
Oh, but time is already in it, because causality is time.
No, you can describe entropy, but that isn't causally linked. We covered that in the live show, did we not? It was profound. But ultimately speaking, you're essentially trying to ascribe with space-time a causality to a description of an effect. All we can do is describe the effect of entropy, describe the arrow of time.
Because causality is a sequence?
Come.
Yeah, it's making time the IV again. Like the ballers do. Time can be an IV. Time is always the IV. No, that's rubbish. That's what he's doing. He just said it.
Yeah,
time is the cause.
That's right. He's ascribed
that
cause
would be
to
an
it.
IV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is their world. In their world, space-time, well, it's time. Well, they can bend it, they can dilate it, they can travel through it, they can create wormholes. They can do all sorts of shit in pseudo-Ramonian for space-time. It's amazing. And then you have the sci-fi flicks that reify it and show people traveling in it.
Thanks, a lot of them.
Causality is a sequence.
So what you're saying is that time then is also emergent, because once you have the cause, time is a natural product of that, as opposed to time being something that we flow through.
No, he said the opposite of that.
Yes, if you take that point of view, then causality is the fundamental aspect of time.
No, it would be the description. If you've got a cause, then we'd have an answer to the second law of thermodynamics. We'd be able to describe the cause of entropy. But you're flipping it from descriptions of things that occur, i.e. describing the arrow of time, entropy, decay, things of that nature, and ascribing it a cause as an aspect of, what, fundamental time? No, you flipped a description to be causal, and it isn't.
and our experience of the flow of
1 second, Nathan.
Go on.
What the guy said was time was the cause, and then the other guy came in and contradicted that, and your man didn't disagree with him. Then the guy that said it in the first place came in and contradicted himself after that. So there's like 2 contradictions within like 3 or 4 sentences.
Exactly. It's like listening. It's like listening to Brenda talk to Dr. Bob. Like one says one thing, the other completely contradicts the other, and then they pat each other on the back and agree. It's like he just completely disagreed with his statement, and he agreed and moved on, but qualified it slightly by saying, "Well, if you take that point of view," you just agreed with him. It's like this is 2 bullshitters talking past each other, just like Brenda and Bob.
Yeah,
time
absolutely.
is a product of that.
A derivative.
A derivative of that.
Okay. Now, can you keep then space and time? Is that one unit, Einstein's so-called block universe, where every...
No. Can you integrate a 4th dimension into our physical universe when it's a description? No, you can't. You can't turn descriptions of entropy and time into dimensions. They're not dimensions. Why are you even asking this?
Every event at a 3-dimensional location and...
Yeah, right, yeah, we've got things in a 3-dimensional location. Now show me time. Then bend it.
And a location in time. So
a location in time? Like time's got a physical location to be in, has it? When is time? When we're going to see it? Has it got a bus stop? No! It's not a dimension.
Dimensional piece, so you can...
No, it's not 4th dimensional, right? The pseudo-4 space is a description of a 4th dimension. That's not our reality. Now we're into immediate juxtaposition with this pseudo-geometry being our reality. I love it. Within seconds.
See the whole history of the universe from beginning.
No, because the whole history of the universe would involve the place that we actually exist in, and what you're taking as your photographs from the sky, and then juxtaposing this 4th dimensional pseudo-reality with an extra dimension we don't live in, isn't a description of our universe, or the history thereof. This is a bloody outrage. Why do you guys play this to me? This isn't any fun.
To end, supposedly, in this 4-dimensional block universe where time is a coordinate.
Unlock curiosity with thousands of books, games, videos, and more on Amazon Kids Plus.
New from Barocca.
Right, unskippable ads. 2 of them, back to back. Too cheap to pay for the...
You know, from the point of general relativity...
From the point of pseudo-Harmonian 4 space time bending... Sorry, we don't exist in that. Why am I, like with the globe, automatically begging the question of the answer that you're going to put this into our reality with? That's pseudo-4 space. So if we beg the question, you're begging the question? Everyone listening begging the question? Right, let's move on. Now we're already within the answer that I'm begging the question of. I'll explain it.
Classical general relativity, you can have it both ways.
You can have it any way you like within pseudo-raw 4 space time bending. Have it any way you want. It doesn't affect reality.
You can think of this block...
Go back to thinking about it. You can have it any way you like. Think about it like this. You can think about it like that. Think about it as being a force if you want. There's all sorts of things you can do with it.
Universe picture, which you mentioned, and you can get away with that to a certain...
Get away with things. This sounds real scientific, doesn't it? This is your worldview, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a globe-believing muppet. Who's this? Eli. Hey, Eli. Covering the numpty pipe smoking, sandal wearing fundies on Closer to Truth.
I can't take it anymore. I seriously can't listen to these idiots fantasizing about space and spaghettified and black up. It's driving. Honestly, God, it's really, really driving me insane.
But why? It's driving us insane because even within their imaginations, they're just wrong.
Yeah,
that's the annoying part. If they get it correct,
you're spot on.
then
Owen's
like,
absolutely spot on.
But they get it wrong.
Exactly. That's the more annoying part about it, right? When they start contradicting each other and not clarifying their rhetoric, you're like, well, you're just doing a crap job. I don't want to have to clarify your own bloody rhetoric for you before I take it apart. That's annoying. You know, clarify it. Detail what it is before you reify it into having lips and talking about stuff, right? You need to do that if you're a good magician. These aren't good magicians.
No, that's why I put it there, because these are the ones that don't have a comedian across the way. This is the one that is going to use his degrees and education, be a little bit erudite about themselves. And they are completely crap, and you're taking them apart, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. So when someone says, I can't take any more, I'm on the opposite end. I want more. This is what the Western world believes.
Yeah, but I want a bit of admiration. At least you've heard me say, oh, this is a good wizard, and compliment Tyson on what he does and how he does it, right? The way he goes about it is admirable. It's a skill, and he's got that skill in spades, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And when you take it apart, it feels more satisfying. I think that's what Arwen's driving about, right? You just want to get to it's quick fire with Tyson, because he makes the claim, you debunk the claim, he moves on. He makes another claim, you debunk his claim, you move on. And then he has a bit of a cackling laugh, and you laugh along with him, and then debunk his claim again, and then he makes another claim. It's very rapid, it's concise. This is sandal-wearing, pipe-smoking fucking idiots jabbering shit to each other, and it's so irritating.
Right, they're just blabbermouthing, thinking they're smart, but they're getting it all wrong and not even realizing it.
If I had a pipe right now, I'd be smoking it. I'd put my sandals on and enjoy every minute of your deconstruction of it.
Well, I'm not enjoying it, I've got to be honest.
I agree with that. I mean, having a Nathan rant about it makes it a lot more digestible. It is like the thing that actually makes this digestible. I would never watch such a video on my own.
Oh, neither would I. And the kind of person that does watch this garbage, right, is the guy that sits around sniffing his own farts, telling himself how smart he is also. And when he watches this stuff and barely keeps along with the crap they're waffling, because it's not being clarified and explained to him, who's got a vague understanding of it also, he can sit around going, yeah, I vaguely understand what these two tossers are talking about.
Yeah, go on, John.
I was gonna say it sounds like an anti-flat earthers kind of video, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we use Neil deGrasse Tyson as the benchmark for somebody who is able to push the nonsense across the line from fantasy to making you believe it's your reality, you give him a 9 out of 10 as a benchmark, maybe, and then we could anyone else we listen to, including Dr. Becky, we could rate them off of that. But these fellas would be maybe a 2, 1.5 even.
Yeah, I'd give
because
him
they
a 10.
obviously.
I would actually rate Tyson as the benchmark. I'd give him a 10. So I'd say, like, you can exceed 10. There might be someone that comes along that's better, but as it stands, Neil deGrasse Tyson is the standard. He's the benchmark in terms of top quality wizardry. Because the reason I put him as a 10 is because you could imagine a certain circumstance where he's got an awkward position that he has to be in because he's in a contradiction within the rhetoric. I'll give you an example. Coriolis effect. Whenever I go to try and pull out anything from Tyson about Coriolis effect, he's so careful with his words, and he still speaks quickly. So in other words, he's got this rhetoric down so well that he's careful enough about how he phrases things that you, the audience member, still, even if you're thick, understand what he's talking about. But I, as a flat earther, can't just grab a sound bite and go, look, here's Tyson doing his own argument. I can't ever find that in it because he's so skilled.
Because he's actually saying it the way it's supposed to be, which he knows is wrong, but then he spends effort in trying to slip that through unnoticed so that he can keep being honest without being called on it. And he's very effective.
That's it. That's why I've got admiration for him, because there's very few opportunities that I can say, like I did in the last episode, I'm like, you're just bullshitting, you're just lying, because he's disseminating the rhetoric correctly. Now, once he's done that, I've got no issues. Like, great, you've disseminated Earth turns underneath the football. You find me a quote where he says that. You won't find it. What you'll find is a 30 to 60 second description of Tyson, but also creating the magic of the event within this description that doesn't have him explicitly saying Earth turns under the football. But he makes you understand what he's describing and creates the magic of the atmosphere of the match itself while he tells it you. Now, that's skill.
He simulates it.
Yeah.
And he makes you simulate it without even saying what it is.
Right.
You just
Yeah, you and Ferret.
It's skill. That's skill. That's admirable. Now, I don't like his rhetoric, and obviously I'm in a disagreement with him in that regard. Doesn't mean I can't admire the talent. And I do. Same with the heliocentric model itself. You can't not admire the beauty of it. And someone the other day, I'm not religious, but I'm saying when they said it, it resonated with me. They were like, yeah, the devil was claimed to come with lots of beauty and lots of knowledge and all the good things that people want. So you go, oh, right, okay. So my admiration of the beauty of the heliocentric model by a Christian viewpoint is just the beauty of the devil. Oh, well, it's quite a romantic way of thinking about it, because that's often how I've saw it. It's the evil world that's there to keep the control over you that you don't even realise is there. But at the same time, it's an absolutely amazing fantasy world. Beyond
it's a honeypot.
comprehension in some
It's the
in some
ultimate
ways.
honeypot of the mind.
Say again, Arvin?
It's the ultimate honeypot of the mind.
Yeah, it's glorious. Let's have a bit more of the numpty pipe smokers just so we get to the end, because I know 10th Man hates me when I end it 3 minutes before the end. He wants all of it. Right, 10th? You'll get a huff on if I don't do the whole video till the point they're saying bye-bye.
To a certain extent.
Well, you have to be.
Go on.
You have to be coached sometime, Nathan. Just take some coaching sometime.
No, but it's just exhausting at this point. I'm just like, I'm done with this. Everyone around me is going, I can't stand it.
Better
when
than pushing
you
buttons.
bring in other
hours.
questions about how quantum mechanics fits into the whole picture, about how thermodynamics fits into the whole picture, and
Ooh, that was two interesting statements right there. How thermodynamics fits in? What, like entropy law? Like gas filling space? That's a very interesting point you've raised there as a disclaimer, I don't doubt. I wonder where he'll go with this. I'm glad we carried on. 10th, you know what? It was the most appropriate moment for that to be moaned about, for him to make that as the next statement. Very appropriate. Anyone else's ears pricked up? Mine have.
entropy. I think it gets harder to maintain this block universe picture. And for me, this is one of
Whoa, that was a big disclaimer. We're going to play that again. Nobody talk.
certain extent. When you bring in other questions about how quantum mechanics fits into the whole picture, about how thermodynamics fits into the whole picture, and entropy, I think it gets harder to maintain this block universe picture. And for me, this is one of the...
Wow. Did you know that was in there, 10th?
Is that an awakening?
Yes, I did know that was in there. When I heard thermodynamics and entropy, I said, Nathan's going to love this.
He's waking up on the spot.
Well, it's just, he's making it, no. This is apologetics. I don't know what's coming next, actually, Arwin. I'm saying it's apologetics. You're saying it's awakening. We don't know, do we?
What's getting harder? What's getting harder for him?
Right. He's not detailed what thermodynamics is or what entropy is. He's not telling anyone any information on those things. He's just leaving it vague, letting it be something that
he's
not
signaling that
what's getting harder, to answer Adam's question, what's getting harder is for him to keep on accepting general relativity when he actually looks at things like quantum mechanics and thermodynamics.
That was a great admission, him saying, look, even if you use thermodynamics and that, this is a load of bollocks, is what he's just said. It's academic talk, but it gets harder, doesn't it? It gets harder to stay in that paradigm because it's contradicting known physics.
Sharing is
profound
pain.
issues. The issue is time really fundamental?
No, it's conceptual.
So that it's the one thing that's not emergent.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not fundamental. It's conceptual. Emergent, no, descriptive.
He's breaking Einstein's paradigm.
Seems to be.
He's still not addressed what quantum mechanics is.
Exactly. We don't know where this is going. Let's
it's
just not get ahead of
possible.
ourselves. You're right, John. I keep saying we don't know yet. Let's just keep listening.
Or is time somehow emergent or a consequence?
Or is it the causal reason for everything? There it is with his big smug smile. Now we know.
I want to make a prediction. I thought about this before, but now I'm going to say it. I predict that they're going to try and undo all they have already done, which is like, general relativity, etc. undo all that and call it scientific progression or scientific discovery, where they've disproved all of general relativity due to the use of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, etc. And they're not going to give us any. They're not going to give us any kudos whatsoever. They're going to try and steal whatever honor they can out of it. Like it's like a stolen valor situation.
I was going to say you came up with this at least 2 weeks ago.
Well, the point I'm making, it comes up a lot of things already. But the point I'm making is they know who we are. They know what we're talking about. But like as in, it's been disseminated throughout their arena, right? That we exist. That there's people out there who are not global believers, who are challenging their rhetoric, right, with thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, physics, and geometry. And so they're going to have to beat us to the punch. So they're going to have to somehow discover how Einstein was wrong.
I've got to stop you, Brian. Right. Number one, stop. This is unbelievably arrogant of you. Right. No. Do you not think the people who did the science for the quantum mechanics would be the pioneers in that regard, Brian? Not us. The ones just talking about it.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but we're bringing it out there.
Hang on, Arwen.
So right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry, Arwen. Yeah, exactly, Arwen. We're the ones saying it, though, Nathan.
Okay,
They're
let me
not
just.
coming out
Okay.
publicly saying it.
Okay, hold on. Let's say that quantum mechanics is Britney Spears, and we are Britney Spears' publicist. Now, this is akin to Britney Spears' publicist going, "I'm the reason it's out there." Britney Spears, that is. Yeah, but Britney Spears is the one on the poster. The quantum mechanics itself is the thing that debunked Einstein, not us. Not us putting it out there either. That would have happened anyway. There's a point. I'm going somewhere with this. There's another reason that I used to think was the main predominant reason we weren't censored out of all existence. And that was because, well, this is inevitable because of the way of scientific discovery. And it would be very unwise to actually censor out of existence true scientific discovery, in this case quantum mechanics, because it benefits humanity and has done for quite some time. We're advancing at quite a rate as a reason for it. So you don't want to be suppressing that. But it does ultimately undo heliocentrism now, doesn't it? Now, yeah, we're shouting that from the hilltops, and I'm not going to, play down our part in shouting that particular aspect from the hilltops. But I'm not going to in any way try and pretend that I'm walking in the footsteps of those who discovered quantum mechanics. That's just a step beyond for me, Brian.
But they're not walking in our footsteps.
Aren't we actually trying to understand it and repeat it, make it comprehensible? Isn't that basically what stepping in the footsteps is?
Journalism? What journalism?
Yeah, basically.
We're not. No, hang on. I don't take anything away from those people, but they're not the ones in this fight fighting the fight. They're on the other side. They're not on our side. Like, even though they actually are, they're not. They're not voicing their opinions. They're not coming out saying these people are correct. None of these people, none of these big names out there who are respected within science.
Excuse
none of
me,
these people are coming out saying that.
Sarge, excuse me, Sarge. This grunt's got ideas above his station. Can you give him a big beating?
I'm not a grunt. No, this is different. I sit outside of them. I sit outside of all of them. We all do. We all sit outside. We are the exception to the rule.
Or what do we do in this cult when someone gets ideas above their station?
I don't care if somebody is a real scientist, right? That someone who's a real scientist can still turn around and start telling me it's a globe, and I can show them how it's not.
It's interesting that Nathan used Britney Spears. Do you actually think Britney Spears, as an analogy, would say, "You want a piece of me"?
The reason I was talking about Britney Spears is because my daughter has become a bit of a brat, and when she was asking for something, I think she wanted a new video game. I did the stupidest thing ever and said, "Well, do you pay the bills around here?" I don't even pay the bills. The people who support the show pay the bills. But that was my example to her, right? So I'm like, so after telling her this, she's now got it in her head that she needs to figure out how to pay the electricity bill something I moan about a lot, which is probably why she's saying specifically the energy bill. Anyway, right? She's like, well, when I pay the energy bill and I say I want Poppy playtime, I can just have Poppy playtime because I pay the energy bill, therefore I'm in charge, right? That's her attitude, right? So I couldn't think of an example off the top of my head, and what came to me was Britney Spears. I'm like, well, Britney Spears had parents that pushed her into show business and then treated her as a commodity. Now, effectively, she's the one paying her parents' bills. But is she in a happy position to be doing that? You know, and then I compared it to me not paying my parents' bills and so on and so forth, just to give her examples. So that's why Britney Spears is on my mind, because it's the only example I could come up with for my kid when she's saying she wants to pay my energy bill because I'm moaning about it. Not that I'm moaning about it to her. She's just presumably overhearing me moaning about it whilst, you know, I'm simultaneously telling her that if she was the one, quote, paying the bills, she could do whatever she wanted, which isn't the case, but you know what I mean.
Can I get back on track a little and make another analogy or comparison between what this is starting to remind me of, what these people do, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and all that, when they seem to like reference us, even though they don't do it by name, even not even close, but they like virtue signal to us that they are actually paying attention, that they're in the current moment getting our attention. It almost feels a bit like back in the day, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when the people in the news were trying to reference things that were like being discussed at the Bilderberg Convention, even though it was completely classified.
Oh, God,
right?
I can't believe my ears. You and Brian, man. What on earth makes you think that these
comparison,
two
I'm not saying it's exactly
pipe-smoking,
the same, it's
sandal-wearing
reminding me
Muppets
of
are
it.
talking about us or have had this contemplation as a result of us? It's so arrogant.
No, I'm just a comparison because like they were not supposed. Hold on, they were not supposed to talk about it, but they wanted to because it was important. So they would try to like virtue signal ideas about it without referencing it because it was not supposed to do that. Right? They were supposed to keep it a secret. One of these news anchor or news kingpins went. Like the media people heads went to the Bilderberg group, so they kept it a secret.
I got it the first and the second time. Yeah, but
It's
my
just a
question,
comparison.
just to put it as a question, is what? Therefore, we had an influence on them in this example, not your Bilderberg example. So therefore, we influenced them. That's what Brian's saying.
We have an influence.
Yeah, that's what Brian's
we
saying.
have an influence. Yeah, we have an influence.
Like who else are they referencing?
Yeah.
Right? Who else?
Before us. Yeah, you can hear it. Arwen, we spoke about this. You can hear it. You can hear it in the rhetoric that's coming out at the moment. We do have an influence.
In the vernacular, to be more precise.
Yeah, but exactly. But just because we don't get the kudos doesn't mean we're not the spark of we're not the influence. We're not the spark of this.
It doesn't mean we are either.
If we weren't
doesn't
here,
mean we are.
If we weren't here, would they be saying it?
Maybe. We don't know we are.
Well, who else is then?
I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying we seem to be, and I'm sticking.
I'm saying
I'm on my own here. Nobody else is backing me up.
Yeah, you're on your own. Because I'll tell you why. Because without us, they wouldn't be in the position they're in.
Bollocks.
And that's the thing. No, they wouldn't be in that position.
Knowing that, Brian, because we can't.
To be nobody pointing out.
It's going to turn into a full-blown row. This is normally after show stuff, right? Us arguing about this sort of petty stuff.
Well, I'll put it this way. How many of these real scientists who are involved in quantum mechanics and involved and know all they need to know, all that you could know about thermodynamics at present, how many of these are coming out publicly and attacking these people for their pseudoscience and nonsense? No one was doing that.
None that I know of. What's your point?
Nobody was doing it.
None that I know of, but what's your point?
My point is, without us, that wouldn't be happening. That's my point. They don't want to give us the kudos, but without us, this wouldn't be happening.
As demonstrated by, as evidenced by what? What's the connection? Why are you ascribing this connection to us just because there's a parallel? I understand we're talking about it and now they're hinting at it. That doesn't mean we've influenced this.
Nobody else was, and nobody else is talking about it except for us. We are the ones. We are the protagonists.
Are we talking about what the guy said at the end, where his doubts had to be spoken?
It's the vernacular he was using.
Yes, we are. Tenth.
Yeah, so he just said, I'm not sure about the last so many minutes I spewed all this garbage because there's this thing. That's where I'm seeing it. He's got stuff in his head saying, yeah, it's mathematical and it works, but then you got entropy, you got this, and I don't know.
What Tent's trying to do is get us back
It's
on
just-
the rails of discussion about the topic at hand, but I'm not going to allow it because I just think what Brian's doing isn't. It's not a good mindset. I know we have influence over things, right? I understand the idea of influence, but to ascribe it here with no evidence to present that we have had some influence over this is, in my opinion, is just opening itself up to be shown to be wrong when there's no need to be ascribing that, other than for what, to massage your own ego. I don't get it.
Let me give you an example. that comes
Let Brian
directly
answer.
from me.
I'm talking to Brian.
Yeah, I'll give you an example that comes directly from me. About 2 years ago or more than that again, because I think it was before COVID or anything like that, I made the point that if you believe in the moon landing, then you're an Einstein denier. If you follow that Einstein was correct and general relativity was correct, then that means that you deny the moon landing. And I pointed out how the reason for that was that what they show within the claimed moon landing footage was basically a force of gravity, because they showed a differential in the astronauts' weight due to only being in 1/6 force of gravity attraction between mass, because the moon is a smaller mass than the heliocentric globe. Now, in recent times, they have addressed that. In the past couple of months, 2-3 months, they have addressed that. There's been an addressing of that exact point. None of them. I will stay. I don't care. I put my hands up. That comes directly from me. And that's not being arrogant. That's that. I'm not going to sit around and be Mr. Humble and go, well, I don't
Nobody's
care.
disagreeing with that.
It is a little arrogant, but you might be
No,
right.
no. Stop, Arwin.
It's
No.
confident.
No, stop.
Not arrogant.
Hold on. I'm agreeing with you. Fine. Move on. We agree. That came from you. Okay. I accept that.
Yeah, okay. That's my point, though. None of these people would be saying that or talking about that. And I don't want to bring me into it. I want to talk about this show and flat earthers in general. If it wasn't for flat earthers in general, these people, a lot of them, would be addressing what they're addressing now. That's my point.
I can't accept that without anything to connect the two.
There's no way to know.
Well, I just gave you a connection.
You didn't.
Just
You
gave
gave a
you
connection to something that you described with
proven
debunking moon
causation.
landings with general relativity. Right, okay, fine. Now, if this was an example where they were saying that, then I would accept that. But this isn't that. I just don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Okay.
I would ask Brian, in support. It's hard maybe to give an example where what we've done is, but maybe you could look at the mitigation to prevent the message we're having getting out there. So with regards to the tramp stamp on YouTube, the censoring of us, that to me is stopping the message getting out there, and it is our message. We may not have originated, or we may be stood on the shoulders of heroes, but fundamentally we're the ones that's banging that drum, and to me that's been dampened down. So that is a support of what Brian's saying. I'm not suggesting we're ripping things apart, because we are censored so much, but the question is, why are we censored? Are we the ones that are providing that argument? And I would probably agree with Brian, not in an egotistical way, but just reality. Look around you. Who else is raising that issue?
I have
Adam.
problem. I have no problem with Brian.
How did you find out this information? Hold on. How did you find out this
Hold
information?
on, I was starting.
If it's not public.
You go, Tent, and I'll go after.
Yeah, I don't understand. Hold on, when I'm the one who started it. Maybe the people interrupting
Oh,
should
come on.
hold on.
Don't bleed. Go on. What were you going to say?
Who's bleeding? My goodness, this happens all the time. Moderate it, man. Say say John, so we don't interrupt each other, and then I get blamed for bleeding. When I'm the... Yeah. I know. Somehow, some way, it's got to get out. I agree with Brian. I agree with Adam. But we're talking about this video and these two guys. Now, did our show affect him when he said those? I mean, this is the context that it started from. I don't think he's watched our show. I can't prove it. He might have. But I just think it's his doubts coming out.
Well, what I would say is what Adam said was what I was trying to say, but in a better way, is that it's not that. My point being is that the message we're trying to put out, the message is, because there's a lot more than just one, right? The messages we're trying to put out from this community, if you want to call it a community, right, that has been slowed down. So they can take that message and make it seem like it was their message all along. When if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't feel the need to do it. They only feel the need to do it, and they're only starting to do it because they know they can't hold back the tide. But they can build a dam that will hold for a while.
Okay. Just so we can move on. I'll just concede a little bit, just so we can move on. Right, if you're to infer that it may be the case that echoes of what we do here have eventually reached these two gentlemen for them to question this narrative in this way, then fine. Just so we can move on, I'll accept it.
So nobody's agreeing with me?
You weren't really part of the conversation that much, Arwin, but fine, make your point at the end, so it seems like this is all about you.
Okay. I was just saying, like, yeah, I feel it too. I feel something. But I have to be honest and sort of scientific about it and realize it's only a correlation thus far. It's not a causation. We have no way to actually test that. Or we might devise one, but we haven't so far. We're just doing what we do, and it seems like it's being picked up and echoed the vernacular, but it's only a correlation. We cannot be sure.
Thank you, Arwin. So someone is on my side. Arwin, the guy originally against me. Lovely. Let's move on.
Of other things. And of course, we don't know the answer, but different approaches to the fundamental questions about cosmology.
We don't know the answer, but the path that we approach the question with will be the basis of how I describe your entire world. Isn't that amazing? It's just all about how we approach the questions.
About quantum gravity.
Quantum gravity? Excuse me? Quantum fourth-dimensional space-time bending? No such beast exists, I'm afraid, my friend. It sounds like you're making that shit up. Or another philosopher's made that shit up after quantum mechanics debunked heliocentrism. But quantum gravity? Sounds like quantum foam and other bullshit.
Quantum gravity waves, man. Quantum gravity waves.
Remember when I told you about the graviton, a massless particle that moves around instantaneously through the universe? That's quantum gravity. That's what he's talking about.
Is that really what that's what he means by that? Bloody hell.
Well, yeah, the graviton is part of quantum gravity and the new quantum gravity colloquial theory.
Oh my God.
That's stolen valor.
It's just quantum themed then.
And this is
it's just quantum themed.
Sorry. Yeah, they're like slapping the word quantum on it because if it's going to be debunking them, they might as well steal it.
Thinking about myself a great deal, and I've been finding personally, I'm thinking more and more.
We seem to be talking a lot about what this guy thinks. Right? Where's his empirical evidence? Where's his science? Why do we care what you think about? It's like Dr. Becky. I mean, they pay me to sit at a desk having an existential crisis, says Becky. Sounds like this guy's getting paid to think more and more about stuff he's thinking about.
More in the direction that time is fundamental, is not emergent.
Differentiated from space?
What? Differentiated from space when it's part of the dimensions? It's the fourth dimension in Einstein's pseudo dimensions? But what? Detached from it? No. If you're talking about Einstein, you're talking about it as a fourth dimension. It's an absurd question. Either this guy doesn't know what he's bullshitting about either. I've already established that, right?
No. This is where his doubt is being expressed. He's saying, "I'm not sure if it's in there," meaning Einstein's thing.
Yes.
So you are teasing apart space and time?
All right. Okay. I'll take it back 10th.
Because in quantum gravity,
sounds quite radical.
Quantum gravity. Back to this bullshit.
Sure it is, but it's also maybe the most conservative solution to a set of conundrums that we face when we...
Why is it always about coming up with a path to a solution to a question that's being asked? Bloody philosophers and their sandal-wearing, pipe-wearing, fundamentalist ways. Ugh.
Try to bring together quantum theory and gravity because
No. Bringing together quantum theory. No. Theory in that regard has been based on systematic experimentation. That's what that theory is based on. Bringing it together with the colloquial theories of bullshitters like yourself, that's never going to happen. You're not going to mishmash scientific validity with pseudoscience fantasy in fourth dimensional space-time. No, these aren't going to be mashed together.
because the other alternative is that
we're setting up a false dichotomy now between that bullshit that you're not going to mash together and something else. Oh, what's the alternative in this false dichotomy? Let's see.
that time goes away completely.
Oh, alternatively, it's either quantum gravity and the bullshit attached when I mishmash physical reality and experimental data with pseudoscience fourth dimensions. It's that, or there's no time! Now, that's not a false dichotomy, ladies and gentlemen.
And in the view that time goes away completely and time is...
time goes away completely? What, the stopping of the arrow of time, entropy not ceasing to exist? Absurd. Entropy is a description of something that occurs in nature always. Merely a description. So what, if you take away the description of things occurring always, they'll still be occurring, dickhead.
Is, quote, emergent, then...
Oh, sorry, why are you waving your fingers while you say emergent? The thing that you described as not being capable of being emergent when you describe entropic effects. Now it's back to being, quote, emergent while you wave your fingers in the air.
One imagines a world and...
well, if it's emergent, now we're imagining a different world. So Tense, no, he's not relinquishing anything. He's appreciating that when you have these difficult questions about thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, what you can do is imagine a world that's different. That's what you can do, Tenth. He's just explained it.
And Julian Barber...
What he seems to be doing is comparing models. That's my analysis.
Well, a guy called Julian Barber wrote about it, Arwin.
Like, both don't work, but he's just, what if it worked like this? Oh, what if it worked like... He's comparing models, but he's already basically explained that both really don't work. He's just moving on, though.
Or the alternative is time doesn't exist, Arwin.
Right, so I'm right. The whole point. What's the title of the show? Space Time. Now he's saying time may not exist. So yeah, he's doubting.
No, it's either quantum gravity, quantum gravity, or time doesn't exist in this false dichotomy. So in his mind, I've got a mishmash physical experimental data with pseudo-Ramonian for space-time, because the alternative is time doesn't exist.
Right, because he's bothered by the contradictions that exist in mind because he believes in the mathematical worldview, and it's just not matching up.
By declaration, his cognitive dissonance has made him say that the alternative to mishmash quantum gravity is time not existing. That's how his cognitive dissonance is leaking out.
Yeah, but that's the truth,
right?
Isn't it? Not that time is we think of time, but time is the way they're using it as a dimension. No, it doesn't exist. It's a cognitive admission. He's probably just not realised it.
No, he hasn't. That's the most frustrating thing of it. When we qualify it as, no, your space-time dimension doesn't exist as the alternative in that false dichotomy, he doesn't mean that, though, does he? It's cognitive dissonance leaking out of him from every pore.
His brain goes, no, this crap I'm about to waffle has to be real, otherwise time doesn't exist. Then, and like I say, he is correct in that, but he's not seeing it like that. He's just using that statement to validate his continuous down into Narnia.
Yeah, there's a song about it, Nathan. It's the long and winding road of centrism.
The world is nothing but a vast collection of moments with not necessarily any relation amongst them.
The world is just a large collection of moments with no necessary association amongst them, or relation amongst them. What a load of old nonsense waffle. Some things are correlated. That's right. You've got correlations and parallels running that aren't influential on each other all over the place. A fascinating, non-consequential statement that you've just made there with a big smile. Meaningless drivel.
Yeah, Brian, Nathan interrupted you halfway the song because you were so good he didn't want to risk a copyright strike.
The relations of time or causality dissolve, and there's just disconnected moments. And this does represent a proper interpretation of certain mathematical approaches to quantum.
Who cares? Mathematical approaches to quantum. So he's going to now bullshit about how you can interpret things and qualify things and quantify things in mathematics when describing something that's been validated by science. Because whatever's off his breath in the next statement is going to be a violation of mathematical convolution with science. That's what he's about to do.
Quantum gravity.
My song had relevance. I'm not going to sing it
Third
again.
time.
I'm just saying it had relevance. Because they're on the long and winding road to reality, aren't they? They keep on that road forever, trying their best. But eventually that road is going to lead back to none of this is real. That's where
They're driving on custard. They can never stop all this sink in. They got to keep
They're on their way
moving.
to the bottom. They're on their way to the bottom of the glass.
You know, they would call that material custard. Non-Newtonian.
Right, and you got to keep moving, or you'll sink in.
Quantum
Well, I think Arvin's right. I think Arvin's right.
Quantum
Custard will be.
custard.
I think Arvin's right. Custard will be the last stand.
But these approaches, they succeed to a certain extent, and then they fail. They fail for technical reasons. So I don't think.
He's talking about gravity. He's talking about pseudo-force space and how they fail for technical reasons. If they were our physical reality, they'd never fail. That's why laws of nature don't change. They're just description of things that occur always. That's why scientific validity doesn't change. It's empirical.
Technical
go
reason.
into that.
Would that be like they don't exist? That'd be a technical reason, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like gravity. Oh, well, what happened to gravity? Well, it didn't really exist. What do you mean it didn't exist? There was no phenomenon to study. Yeah, there was. There was mass attracting mass. No. That was 108 years ago, 120 years ago, 130 years ago, depending on when this is being discussed. And, violated by gas going up. It's not falling down, go boom, boom, to cause a differential that they ascribe with gravity at 9.8 meters per second. That needs gas to fall down, go boom, boom. So then it turned into a pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending that's not actually a force. But that had no causal influence on anything because it's not a force. And it only took place in the conceptual realm of mathematics developed by Einstein, not in a three-dimensional geometry that we actually physically take place in. No, it was in a fourth-dimensional time dimension that you can't bend or dilate. So, no, that's why gravity went away. It wasn't actually a thing you could study or see. It didn't have any causal influence, and it wasn't an effect you could study in nature. So it wasn't real.
Yeah,
Just technical reasons, though. just technical stuff.
That here. But when a problem confronts, here's an interesting thing about being a theoretical physicist.
It's an interesting thing. When something fucks up good and proper and people show how it don't work, we just change the story. I mean, that's what theoretical physics is all about. I mean, it's not about being someone who deals with the physical. It's not like I've got physicist in my name or anything. Because it's theoretical. It's all just the shit that goes on in my mind. And if that happens to be an existential crisis, then that's the thing that we're talking about, right? Because it's not about physics. I mean, this is just a hijacking and a swindle. Because I've got the theoretical disclaimer before the physical bit. So obviously it's in the mind's eye of what I describe in the physical. Not actually physical, not actually physics. Theoretical physics. Now let's go to La La Land and describe what might be. And when it doesn't work, we'll talk about technical issues.
A lot is a matter of judgment. And when you face...
No judgment required if you've got causality established with science. It's empirical. No judgment.
A problem where you make technical progress on some aspects.
Technical progress, what, in your describing of them? Only to find those descriptions fail. Just technical issues.
And nobody makes technical progress on some other things.
What's technical progress? Society has been advanced by science multiple times. Countless times. Science advances humanity as it establishes the cause of natural phenomena. Now, most people see experimental data and don't see the significance of it until something technologically comes along to advance that understanding. And that normally benefits their life in some way or another. Whereas this musing that you do has no progress in society. It has no benefit. There is nothing, literally nothing this man has ever said, ever, that has benefited humanity in any way, shape, or form.
There comes a moment when you say, is that over here really a technical problem? Or do we just have a conceptual misunderstanding?
You just have a conceptual misunderstanding. What a great way to end. I'm glad you asked. That cheered me up greatly. Oh, wow, that was well worth the paying 10th just for that.
It is very good.
Right, I'm glad we were done with it, though. Gotta be honest.
But that was a handy ending because it kind of gave him an out, you know. Or is it a technical issue, or is it that we don't have the correct fundamental understanding or whatever? You know, it's like an open-ended question. You know, so out the back door, you know, before anyone pulls me on my rubbish.
It's a good philosophical question to ask yourself.
That's
right?
what they are.
Sometimes, Nathan, they are bothered by the very thing we deconstruct to where they actually do a Freudian slip and admit at the end and during their doubts. And this is what this video, when I watched it, I said, oh, Nathan's going to love this when they mentioned this, and the other. And the ending was absolutely a confession.
You know why I love it the most? We caused that. That's as a direct consequence of what we do here.
Well, in a sense, that's true. In this case, I sent you the video. So, yeah, I'm part of the cause.
Well, it's one step away from conspiracy gets basically getting uncomfortable on camera. What if he was wrong, right? It's one step before that.
Yeah.
Well,
I get it, Arwin. He's not verbalizing the cognitive dissonance like conspiracy cats did. But you can see that those cogs have turned for him to say what he said. Next step, verbalization of the contemplation of the reality, the awful, awful reality that might face him if all of those things mean his reality isn't as described in the heliocentric model, which is the stage Cat's got to with Haunted House, right?
The next one in the series of 3 on this subject matter will be tomorrow. And this guy is Crazy Safe House. I'll just leave it there. But you're going to love it when he says gravity's not a force.
Like we were all affected by this information, right?
You're about to give a helpline number out there, John, or
I
something.
wasn't affected at all.
Well, no, what I'm saying is we were all affected by the information. That's why we're here. But we aren't the ones that created the information or discovered anything. So they're affected by the same information that we have been. They've just not come to the same conclusion yet.
We did discover something. We discovered that it was all a load of rubbish, that there is no heliocentric model. That's a pretty big discovery.
Yep.
What we have done, though.
I don't know if that's... I've been arguing with Brian all day, but if you find out something isn't true, is that a discovery?
Yeah, I suppose. Why not? Why else would it be?
But you're left more ignorant at the end of it, aren't you?
No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, if you discover a lie, then suddenly you know more accurately what you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So
the
you know
great way to
more.
put it. But what I'm saying is, at the point that you think you know what the sky is, right? It's a vacuum with men in space. Okay. Well, in your incorrect assumption, you know something about the sky. Now, that's not right, and I get that. But at the point that you go, all right, that's not true, it would suck out all the gas. So I don't know what the sky is then. That's the next step, yeah? But would you say that when you come to that realization, I don't know what the sky is that a discovery? That was kind of what I was alluding to.
Well, yeah, you've discovered that you don't know.
Okay, fine.
It's more like a realization, technically.
But a realization of something you don't know is like, I can't remember which philosopher said it. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Well, it's a bit like the is it Arthur Eddington saying that the first sip from the glass of science will make you an atheist, but God is waiting for you at the end of the glass. It's kind of that kind of way. It's like, oh no, I was wrong all along, kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying it's as profound as that, but
Nah, that was Werner Heisenberg.
oh, sorry.
This guy seems to.
Yeah. Now, the point is, on the null hypothesis, did you discover something if you confirm the null?
Yes. You figured out it
There you
wasn't
go.
that.
There you go.
Exactly.
So we figured out it ain't the globe. So we have discovered something. Well done, QE. Thank you.
I still think you're
I
right.
said that
It's
years
not a
ago.
discovery. I
That's
said
why
that.
people
Yeah. What do you do? I'm a pioneer in finding out things we don't know.
That things don't cause something. I know that it doesn't cause it. We're good.
It definitely wasn't that, and I can say that for certain. I'm a pioneer.
It definitely wasn't the you're a pioneer.
Technically, if you find out you didn't know something, then that cleans the slate in that region for you to be able to find out what it actually is. So it is progress.
That's what I praise about being a flat earther above all else, right? The childlike wonderment that it leaves you with. Wow. So I might be the one to figure out what the sky is then. That's quite cool. As opposed to the opposite of that is the Truman Show, with him sat in the classroom going, I want to be an adventurer and find new lands. And she pulls down a map of the world and goes, it's already all been discovered. Total opposite feeling.
So did these numpties? I didn't catch the whole thing, just the ending of it, and the rhetoric in between. Jeez, oh man, guys, you need to find yourselves a girl. Did they bring up that was this a general relativity talk?
Yes.
So they didn't bring up that general relativity violates Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Did they bring that up?
Run that by me. How does general
Say again?
relativity violate Heisenberg's uncertainty principle?
Yeah, besides the fact that there's no experiment. Did they talk about any experiments whatsoever?
No. Talked about what he thought about a lot.
And then he said, as a theoretical physicist, right? That was the disclaimer. That was the elephant in the room, right? You caught on to it. Yeah. As a theoretical physicist, yeah, well, you're outside the subject area. Right? This is an appeal to authority fallacy. He's a theoretical physicist. Well, we're supposed to be talking about physics. Yeah.
Yeah. Your consensus worldview of the heliocentric model has come from theoretical physicists and their bullshit musings about what they think. That's where your worlds come from. If you're watching this and you think you live in a pseudo force space and time bends, that's where it's come from. These bullshit artists have got you by the short and curlies believing their musings. That's the world we live in currently if you're a Western world heliocentric believer. It's absolutely outrageous. That's why I was getting so frustrated with them.
What was interesting, though, was, and it was a good pick, Ted, was this guy's kind of admissions. We picked up on one through, but the last one was the best one. Now, he's not saying he agrees there, but he does recognize the implications that everything he is describing just could be a conceptual misunderstanding, which is posh for I'm talking bollocks again. Yeah, but he recognizes it, that this could all be absolute nonsense. I don't think he accepts it, but at least he's there. He's at that point of realizing how theoretical this is. And if he's got the wrong concept, it's all wrong.
I think he knows it. He knows what he's saying is bullshit, and that's just his get out of jail free card.
No, I agree. He's disclaimed it. There's no denying that.
What was it? It was using thermodynamics and something that was uncomfortable to stay within that concept.
Yeah. That bit is disclaimed, and then he's gone, this obviously, as Matt's saying, is presenting a problem. But then the answer is quantum gravity. That's his answer. Oh, that squares the circle for me. On with life. Cheese, cheese, smile, smile.
He has
Quantum
a bunch of puzzle
gravity.
pieces.
Yeah, I want to go with QE. Sorry, John. Did you say quantum gravity? Was that what I heard?
Yeah, did they bring that up?
Yes. That was his solution to the problem of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics for Einsteinian pseudo-4 space-time not working anymore.
That was his solution?
Yes.
Yeah, either quantum gravity or no time.
Or time does not exist, as false dichotomies would have it.
There was a technical issue, according to him.
It's just a technical issue, but the technical issue is solved with quantum gravity.
Gravitons.
Well, he didn't
Yes.
really explain it. He just kind of said, it's solved with that, and these are not the droids you're looking for. And moved on.
Very
Right.
interesting.
Either it's quantum gravity or no time. Yeah. So you better take the quantum gravity because
Yeah,
you
you
don't want to
better
have
take
no
it.
more time.
The alternative is just heaven forbid there's no time. Entropy ceases to be. The description of things occurring always in a particular manner, that will cease to be. So yeah, better pick my quantum gravity. As false dichotomy has it, you got to pick one.
Well, he has a bunch of puzzle pieces that don't fit together, but in his mind, he knows they do. And he's just trying to figure out how they do at this point. He's not thinking about whether they do or not. He's just trying to figure out how.
You can't see this, QE, but your description of these guys, right, with bad breath, sandals, I've got them smoking a pipe, but this is that guy. You can't see him, but that is this guy.
Who are these guys?
I don't know who they are. The closer to truth is the YouTube channel. Lee Smolin, I think, is one of them.
Lee Smolin. 10th man
LWE,
posted it in Mass Debaters.
LWE,
I've
SM.
heard of that.
Try a third time.
Yeah, Lee Smolin. I've heard of him.
Smolin, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go there then. So, yeah, what else is in the description for these numpties? You've got sandal wearing, bad breath. What else we got?
No, those aren't. No, open-toed, sandaled, bad breath. No, that's fairy tale pretender
Wool
clown flat
socks.
earthers.
Don't forget the wool socks.
A wool cardigan.
You say, hold on. What you just said is, no. The open-toe sandals, bad breath people are the flat earthers. No, this guy's got a logical framework too. I'm not even joking.
He has a corduroy hat on.
These are the same people. The fact that the charlatans in the flat earth use the same exact magic tricks and the same swindling of science. I mean, what we're going to call them? What was his pretender clown title? Something physicist? Theoretical.
Theoretical physics.
Well, we've got theoretical flat earth physicists. That's all they are. That's what they are. That's what they're replacing, isn't it? The flat earthers on Globebusters and Jaren and Hibbler and Whitsitt, that's what they are. They're the new theoretical physicists. Bullshitting you with their musings about what the bloody world is. They're just replacing the old heliocentric theoretical physicists. That's what they are.
That's what.
That's the funniest
they
thing
were
you've said so
accused
far,
of, isn't it?
Like another.
When they had the physicist guy on at the end, that's what he actually summarised their position as, of strapping Electropa onto gravitational theory. That's all they'd done.
Yep.
So they are open-toed sandal wearers and bad breath and pipe smoking. They're just the same. They're just the new breed of the same thing. You need a guru to muse about what the world is for you, right? What this guy represents is what philosophers do so that the world at large doesn't have to. Right? We'll think about how the world could work, and then we'll tell you what we thought about. And then because we've told you what we've thought about, how the world might work, you don't have to do that anymore. Now, if you really liked what the theoretical physicists had to offer within heliocentrism, and it gets taken away from you, you might be that type of person that sits around going, I really like to sniff my own farts while some bullshit artist tells me about what the world could be. Well, you know, you're going to need a replacement for this dickhead. You know, and what you can find within Flat Earth is Bob Nodell with the same cheesy smile, bullshitting you about what the world could be based on his bloody musings.
Ether.
Exactly the same thing. They're exactly the same. The only difference is that one of them are claiming it's not a globe. Literally.
Yeah, that's the only difference. They're both flogging you a worldview based on their musings and thoughts. None of them have got empiricism, and they're both hijacking science. The parallels are about as close as they get.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there, Nathan, completely and utterly. You've nailed it. There's no route out of that one.
Probably a good note to end on then. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.